Hey folks, how's it going? I hope you're all doing awesome. Hope you all had a fantastic holiday season thus far. For those of you that are joining us from our stream last night, welcome again. Thanks for hanging out again. For those of you that are just joining us after a long break I decided to take from the Flight Sim streaming world, welcome back. I hope you're all doing awesome. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas break. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas holiday full of family and friends and presents and all the good things that all of us deserve in the holidays, especially in this incredibly trying year. But I hope you're all doing awesome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hey to all of you. Lasse Johnson, hi to you. Will Dewey, hello to you. Hope you're doing well. Log X, hi to you. And James too, hello to you as well. Anybody else who's in chat that I missed? Welcome, 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 one and all. Thanks for hanging out today. So last night I decided to do a very impromptu stream just to kind of get back into the swing of things, if you will, because it's been a while since I last streamed, and it was a fun stream last night doing a bit of tech flying in SoCal. And today I figured since we had so much fun in the PMDG DC6 about 3 weeks ago, I figured it was time to hop back into the DC6 and hopefully avoid a repeat of some of the the issues that plagued us in the last stream involving this airplane. So we are in Antarctica. Believe it or not, way back in the day, the U.S. Air Force did operate DC-6s here. You know, back when it made sense to operate this airplane here. So I decided we'd go a little bit retro, at least as much as we could. There are some limitations, as we're going to see here this far south in Antarctica, but I figured we'd go a little bit retro and try flying the DC-6 on a couple of short hops in Antarctica tonight. So this is McMurdo Station, by the way. This is Aerosoft / Lime Sims Antarctica X scenery. Fantastic scenery, can't recommend it highly enough for P3D. And we're going to be flying out of here up north towards Terra Nova Bay. So I'm going to pull up Google Earth here, and we'll talk about our game plan. I'm not going to pull up Sky Vector because, as you can imagine, this part of the world is not exactly charted that well. But as I'm going to show you here in a second, Google Earth or Aerosoft and LimeSim have provided a pretty helpful sort of Google Earth KMZ file that kind of has all the locations in their scenery. So I'm just going to pull that up real quick and share that on screen in just a hot second. Give me a minute to do this. Okay, hopefully this is going to work. We'll see. We'll see. Okay, I think this is going to work. Okay, let me pull up my desktop scene here. 1 second. Whoops, not that scene. Desktop capture. There we go. Hopefully y'all can see it on screen. Blums1212, good to see you, my friend. Austin Valentine, good to see you as well. Hope you're all doing great. Thanks for hanging out today. Happy holidays to you as well, Blooms. I hope life is treating you well down in New Zealand. Okay, so this is Antarctica, in case you couldn't tell. Very bottom of the world. There's Australia, Tasmania, New Zealand to the north. So you go a couple thousand miles south and you end up in Antarctica. So we're here at McMurdo Station. So this is the what's known as the Ross Ice Shelf in Antarctica. And we're at the very southern tip of Ross Island in Antarctica at the McMurdo Station annual sea ice runway. So typically during the opening of the Antarctic, or the start of the Antarctic summer season, right? Around October, going to about December or so. Typically, the sea ice in the Ross Ice Shelf is thick enough to support the weight of airplanes landing on the sea ice itself. So they build an ice runway, or they carve an ice runway into the sea ice itself. So that's what we're using today. So we're going to be at the sea ice runway here at McMurdo Station. And we're going to head to the north initially. At least for the first leg of this trip, up to an Italian Antarctic station called the Mario Zuchelli station. So this is a bay up here called Terra Nova Bay. We're going to head up there, and we're going to fly into another set of ice runways, the Mario Zuchelli station ice runways, here in Terra Nova Bay. So that's going to be our plan. Now, in case you haven't noticed, Sky Vector will not show you anything different, of course, because there's nothing charted in Sky Vector for this part of the world. But there's not a whole bunch of navates here. So the only navates that we have are a couple of NDBs and VOR TACANs and an NDB up at Terra Nova Bay. So the only thing I'm going to have for reference, it really is the Ice Runway TACAN, which is on a frequency 112.8. And then once we get close to Mario Zuchelli, we've got the Mario Zuchelli Station NDB, which is on a frequency of 368. So that's basically it. We'll hop in the cockpit now and set things up in the flight deck. I do have a GPS on board, so we're going to be using that today. Will was asking, what was the problem the last time? Something to do with the manifold pressure. Actually, it wasn't carb icing. I'm pretty sure it was not carb icing. Let me get some chill music playing in the background. I'm going to talk about that in a second, because I was looking through... I was so surprised by that issue that we had last time that I had to research it, right? And I think it definitely was not carb icing. I think it had to have been something else. Because carb icing, right? So the issue last time was the manifold pressure... Correction, not the manifold pressure. The manifold pressure was staying constant. The RPM gauges and the fuel flow needles were jumping back and forth a lot. And, what made me think it was carb icing initially was that the carb air indicators were showing in the cautionary arc, which usually indicates carb icing. But that's not really the result of carb icing, though. A result of carb icing would be the reduction in power. We were not getting a reduction in power. We were getting RPM fluctuations and fuel flow fluctuations. So it was something else. It was some kind of weird bug that only cropped up in that stream. I could never replicate it again. But hey, knowing my luck, that might happen all over again today. All right, anyway, let's go ahead and start getting rid of some stuff here. So we'll get rid of the pitot covers, engine oil pans, mechanic stands, don't need that anymore. Let's get rid of the wheel chocks as well. And let's start closing up things here. Cargo doors, cargo entrance closed, front cabin exit and front cabin stairs being closed. So let's close up shop, and then what we'll do, since we have a flight engineer on board, we're going to have the flight engineer set things up for our engine start here. So he'll turn on the battery master, get everything set up in the cockpit for the engine start. The DC-6, as I mentioned last time, requires a 3-person flight crew, right? So you've got, of course, your traditional, captain and first officer stations. You've also got a flight engineer station. And the flight engineer station, in case you're wondering where it is, it's right here. So there's this little, almost like jump seat type thing that folds back and extends. And the flight engineer sits right there. And the flight engineer station essentially is all of this stuff right here. So during the takeoff and the landing, as captain or pilot flying is responsible for controlling the throttles. During all other phases of flight, the flight engineer sets everything else. So flight engineer monitors all the engine instruments, controls the throttles, fuel flow or fuel control levers, monitors all the engine instruments and gauges, things like that. So that's what the flight engineer is responsible for. I totally forgot to get the sounds back on.
Seatbelts and pedals.
There you go. You can hear the flight engineer working back there.
Throttles.
I've got about 50% fuel. We're carrying about 18,000 pounds of cargo, so that's good.
Propellers.
Do we have any special crew today? Wink, wink, ask James 2. That's a great question, James 2. Let's check in with who I think our check captain slash flight engineer is going to be. Let's check in with him real quick. Yeah, he's still with us. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. He's still with us. He's definitely very, 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 very much with us. He's not going anywhere. Let's have him go through. Let's have him go through all the motions, all the animations I have for him. We've added a couple new ones actually. This is sassy Captain Obvious, sarcastic Captain Obvious, and of course, we've always got the ever reliable, ever trustworthy popcorn eating Captain Obvious. So our check captain is very, very much still with us. Okay, let's see what's going on here. Are we done with the before start? Yes, we are. Oh, okay. The other thing I want to do is set up my GPS here. So I'm gonna need this, right? Because obviously, you see the issue here. We've got a magnetic compass. So all of the navigation gauges that I have here are basically, related to magnetic heading. I don't have anything to indicate true heading. Now, I believe, at least I assume, that in real life, when they flew the DC-6s down here back in the days of yore, right, when they operated the DC-6s here, they must have made some modifications, right? Maybe they had an INS system or some kind of a really primitive INS system, or they had some way of showing true headings. I don't have that in the PMDG DC6, unfortunately. So that's why we're going to have to rely on the GPS for that. And in order to rely on the GPS for that, it's actually pretty straightforward. If you go to utilities, and you go to not utilities, you go to system and you go to units, there's a way to set your nav angles to be based on true headings instead of magnetic headings. So you've got three different options here. You can set it to magnetic headings, reference true headings, or reference some kind of user selected headings. So I've got it set to true, so that's great. So that's going to be perfect for us today. So if I go to the map here, you can see that now it's referencing true headings, so that's great. Let's go to flight plan and let's set some things up. So let's see if they have NZIR. Oops. I don't think they have NZIR, but let's try anyway. Nope, they don't. That's fine, because we've still got Phoenix Field. We do have Terra Bay Station, which is Mario Zuchelli Station, so I'm going to put that in. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go direct to Terra Bay. So just give me a second here to work this. There we go. Activate direct. There we go. So we got 194 miles to go to Terra Bay. It's almost due north actually on a true, direct north true. So it's about 348 degrees. So just about 12 degrees offset from true north. So there you go. The other thing I want to do is I want to set up my pressurization system. We're going to climb up relatively high today. So we're going to climb up to let's say 18,000 feet. I think that should be good enough. So we'll climb up to 18,000 feet. Pressurization panel is set. That's great. Fuel flow gauge or fuel gauges are all indicating where I want them to be indicating. Everything is set up top for an engine start. So I'm just going to turn the main fuel booster pump to low for the number 3 tank. And we're going to be ready to start here in a second. Jacob Hoffler, how's it going, Jacob? Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm glad that the stream is helping you relax. I hope you're having a good time there, Jacob. Let's see, what else did I miss in chat here? So James, I hope, there he is. Okay, yeah, so I hope that satisfied your curiosity as to what our dear Czech captain was up to. Our Czech captain today, by the way, is also doubling as a flight engineer. He is apparently type rated and qualified for every position on every aircraft type known to the flying public. So there you go. He's pretty experienced in all aircraft types. Okay, let's go ahead and start up the engines here. So we've got mixture set to auto rich there on the number 3 engine, and we're ready to start. Okay, let's go ahead and start up number 3. Max to both on number 3, so let's go ahead and start up. Start.
3.
Co-pilot's counting the blades. 6. 9. 12. Okay, so I've primed and boosted the engine. It might take a couple of tries to start, but we might get lucky on this one. Let's see. Yep, that's great. We're going to get lucky on this one. Okay, good start on number 3. Let's go ahead and start up number 4. So mixture to auto rich on number 4. Start sequence for these engines, by the way, is 3, 4, 2, and 1. So we'll move the engine start selector to number 4. Main fuel boost pump to low on the number 4 tank. And max to both. And let's go ahead and start up number 4.
3.
6 blades.
9.
Prime and boost.
12.
Usually the start sequence that works for your first engine start should also work pretty well for the remaining engines. you know, the timing and you know, cadence at which you hit the start switch, prime the engine, and boost the engine. That cadence should work for all the engines, typically, if it works for just one engine. So there we go. We got a good start on 4 and 3. That's great. Let's start up number 2. I have a good feeling about the stream now that things seem to be working pretty well. Okay, engine start selector to number 2. Mixture to auto rich for number 2. Boost pump to low, and max to both. And let's go ahead and start up number 2. Here we go. Start.
3, 6,
6 blades.
5,
Priming at 9 blades and boosting.
12.
Okay. Alright, starting up number 2. Oh, and I knew I shouldn't have said anything. As soon as I get overconfident, things don't work so well. Okay, well, we're gonna have to try this again. So, tell you what, let's start up number 1. So we give the starter solenoid a rest there on the number 2 engine, and we can start up the number 1 engine while we give that a break for a minute. So let's start up the number 1 engine. Start. Max to both.
6, 5,
9 and 12.
12.
Okay. There we go. Good start on number 1, it looks like. By the way, all that smoke that you're seeing, that is the smoke from the oil that is coating the engine. So radial engines are notoriously heavy consumers of lubrication oil. Typically, you know, when a radial engine has been sitting for a while, there's a lot of oil that coats the cylinders, and when you start up the engine, you see a lot of smoke because all that oil is now being burned off. That's a good sign, typically, when you're starting up a radial engine. It's one of the very few engine types where if you see a ton of smoke during start, that's actually a good thing. Okay, let's start up number 2 now. Let's see if we get lucky at number 2. Okay, engine start selector to number 2, fuel boost pump to low. Start.
3,
Counting the blades.
6, 5,
Prime and boost.
12.
All right, that's working. Okay, great. We got number 2 starting up as well. Looks like we got all 4 engines running nominally. That is fantastic. That is looking good to me. It's going to take a while for the engines to warm up and stabilize, especially here in the extreme cold. By the way, I don't think I showed you this yet, but I can show you this here real quick because this is super cool. I wanted to show you the webcam showing the live feed from McMurdo Station in Antarctica right now. So if you go on Google, by the way, you can probably search for this McMurdo webcam. There's actually a live feed from McMurdo Station, which is super cool. Let me pull this up here real quick. Hopefully y'all can see my Chrome window. But this is the United States Antarctic Program website, usap.gov. And they've actually got a webcam, like live webcams at McMurdo Station. So this is pretty cool. It actually looks a little bit different than the way Active Sky is rendering the weather right now. Active Sky has a lot of clouds around, but as you can see, the live shot has absolutely no clouds. Currently, it's a balmy 28 degrees Fahrenheit, -2 degrees Celsius. Wind chill of -6 degrees, 20 degrees Fahrenheit. Wind speed is 7 knots, and air pressure 2849 inches. So 28.49. I have never seen air pressure that low before. Never seen an altimeter setting that low before IRL. That's pretty low. So there you go. That's a live shot from McMurdo Station, which is pretty cool. So what you were seeing there, that's the view from back there. So let me show you where exactly that view is from. It's from right about here. This was the shot you were seeing live just now. Right about here. Yeah, so right about here is that shot. So this scenery is actually pretty representative of the way it looks in real life. right? They've even got a little "Welcome to McMurdo Station" sign here too in the scenery. That's pretty cool. That's really cool. All right. Okay, let's hop back in here. Let's do our we've done our after start checklist. Okay, we're gonna get going here in that case. The one thing I want to do, by the way, real quick, is I wanted to put in a couple of waypoints here. So the first thing I wanted to do was add the NZIR. Is that available? No, it's not available. Never mind. But I can probably put in the Terra Nova NDB, hopefully. Not sure if it's there or not. One second, let me just see if I can find it. Nearest NDB. Terra Nova Bay, ITA. Let's see if we can find the nearest VOR. Nope, none. Okay, so at least we've got Terra Nova NDB though. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go to flight plan. I'm gonna go to insert before and put in that. So ITA, there we go, that's the one. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna go direct ITA. There we go. Okay, direct ITA, hopefully. Yeah, there we go. That's good. All right, so we got all this set up, and then the other thing I want to do is I want to tune in the frequency for that. So 368. 368. That's the frequency for the Terra Nova NDB. There we go. That's set. So I've got all that set up. Let's start taxiing out here. Let me catch up on chat here real quick. Raptor Aviation, how's it going? Skipple Tips, how's it going? And sorry I missed all you folks that joined in earlier. I was just too distracted and focused on setting things up in the airplane here. Vincent Van Pepagum, welcome Vincent. Hope you're doing well. Anybody else that I missed, feel free to let me know in case I missed you. Sorry about that. Thanks to all of you for hanging out. I hope you're all doing awesome. As I was saying at the start of the stream, I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas holiday. I hope you all had a wonderful time full of all the good things that we all deserve this time of the year, right? Family, friends, spirit of Christmas, love, togetherness, presents, all that good stuff, all that good jazz. I hope your holidays were full of all that good stuff. Okay, let's start taxiing out here. Winds are actually out of the south, it looks like. So let's take a look here at what we're gonna do. Whoops. I believe it's runway 3315, if I'm not mistaken. So what we're gonna do, actually, you know what? Let's just take off in that direction. The runway is long enough; we can still take off with the tailwind, so it's fine. We'll just take off, you know, going to the north. So that's fine. We'll just take off going to the north. Okay, brakes released. Let's do a quick brake check and let's start taxiing out here. You know, one of the super cool things about the scenery is they've actually modeled all these Air National Guard, Air Force C-130s that make the trip out here, right? That's super cool. Some of them even have like skis. That looks super cool. And back there, they've got a couple of DC-6 Twin Otters. Those are operated by Ken Borek Air. Ken Borek Air is an operator from Canada. And every year, they make the trip all the way from Canada, all the way down the United States, down Central America, South America, and then a good way across Antarctica to make it down here, to be based here for the Antarctic summer season, which is super cool. Okay, let's have the co-pilot here and the flight engineer do the before takeoff flows. And we'll backtrack here on the runway. We'll flip around and we'll take off going the other way. Nicholas, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Nicholas, Terra Nova Bay. I was showing this on Google Earth a little bit earlier. It's to the north of McMurdo Station, so it's about 200 miles north of McMurdo Station. And Terra Nova Bay is the site of an Italian Antarctic research station called the Mario Zuchelli Station. And just like here at McMurdo Station, where they have an annual sea ice runway, just like that, they've got a couple of sea ice runways at Terra Bay as well. So that's where we're headed. And actually, depending on what people are in the mood for, what we have time for, we either will make the return trip back to McMurdo after this, or we might switch things up and fly into a different Antarctic station. So instead of doing the return leg from Terra Nova back to McMurdo Station, we might actually go from Fossil Bluffs to Rothera Station, which is a United Kingdom research station that has a really cool kind of short gravel runway. So that might be a fun, challenging approach and landing to do later. But we'll see what people are in the mood for. We'll see what I'm in the mood for later. Okay, we're lined up here, just waiting on the co-pilot to finish the before takeoff flows. And one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do my run-up here. So let me pull up my run-up checklist. Okay, here we go. Here's the run-up. Gust lock disengaged. Let's go ahead and throttle up to 1700 RPM. Throttling up to 1700 RPM there. There we go. 1700 RPM. Okay. And we're going to cycle the prop. Look for an RPM drop. That's good. All right. Then we're going to check the fuel and oil pressures. Yep, everything's looking good to me. That's all looking good. Cylinder head and oil temperatures are all looking good. Generators, that was checked earlier. Let's check the magnetos now, one at a time. So we're looking for not more than 100 RPM drop. So let's check the mags. Left mags in all engines. Everything's looking good to me. You know, typically you check these one by one, but it's a little hard to do. Considering, you know, I can't actually wait. If I zoom out, maybe I might be able to. If I zoom out, I might be able to do them. Look at my engine gauges and do the mag check at the same time. So let's do this one by one in that case. There's the drop on the number one. Back to both. Let's check the right mag. That's good. Back to both. Let's check the number two mags. Number two engine mags rather. Left mag. That's good. Right mag. That's good. Number three left. That's good. Right, that's good. And number four, left, that's looking good. And right, that's looking good. Okay, fantastic. Mag check is complete. BMEP indicators checked. By the way, these BMEP indicators right up here, right? So these top gauges here, these show, essentially this is a reading, you know, these gauges show a reading of the torque produced by the engine, right? In pounds per square inch. What's really interesting about these radial engines, the double WASP engines on the DC-6, is that these are actually geared engines. So part of the reason you're so careful about not reducing thrust too much on descent and keeping your power in pretty much until you're on short final is because these engines are geared. So you don't want the propeller turning the gear, you want the gear turning the prop. So that's why you're always super careful in flight to make sure, you know, to keep these gauges reading about minimum. So there you go. But anyway, that's all looking good. Cabin supercharger check, we've got that set to low for now. We'll go to high once we're about 14,000 feet. And throttle down to 1,000 RPM. And let's go ahead and get the pitot heats on. Pitot heat selector here on to captain, pitot, and static. That's good. And the outside air temperature is -2 degrees. So what we're going to do is set the windshield heat to 0 to -40. There's three selections here, right? There's off about 10 degrees, 10 degrees to 0 degrees, and 0 degrees to -40. So I've set this to between 0 to -40. And the reason you want to be super careful about making sure you know what your outside air temperature is, you get the outside air temperature here, right? The free air gauge, free air temperature gauge, that shows about -2 there. The reason you want to be super careful about setting this windshield heat switch properly is because there's a vinyl layer in the windshield, and you don't want that overheating and softening. So that's the reason you want to be checking your free turbine, or sorry, your free air temperature gauge first, and then setting that windshield heat selector accordingly. Okay, but that's all set. I think we're looking good. We're ready to go here. Alex Ryubas, good to see you again, my friend. Hope you're doing well, Alex. I'm going to catch up on chat here once we get airborne. I'm sure we'll have plenty of time to talk and chat away. I do apologize once again for how much trouble I'm having catching up on chat these days. Okay, but let's get going. All right, so I'm going to pull up the flight engineer and have him set things up for the takeoff. We're going to do a dry takeoff today.
30 inches stabilized.
So the flight engineer right now is setting 30 inches of manifold pressure and watching for all the engines to stabilize at 30 inches. So he's watching all the engine instruments carefully, or at least in real life, the flight engineer will be watching the engine instruments carefully. I'm not sure how much intelligence is actually programmed into the virtual flight engineer by PMDG.
Going full power.
And now he's setting full power. And I'm going to hold the brakes until full power is set. I don't want to start rolling until we have full power established. So full power being set. I should have made set takeoff trim actually. I did. Okay.
Full power set.
Full power set, brakes released, and we're rolling. Okay, there's airspeed alive, 40 knots, and we're rolling. We're going to rotate at about 100 knots. There's 80 knots. And there's V1 and rotate. Okay, positive rate. Gear coming up.
Gear selected up.
Okay, at this point, this is where flying the DC-6 is kind of a relatively unique kind of process, at least during takeoff. You actually lower the nose a little bit and you shallow your rate of climb, and you let the airplane speed up so that the flight engineer can reduce thrust to METO and then eventually climb power and raise the flaps. So I'm lowering the nose here, letting the aircraft accelerate past 130 knots. Past 130 knots, the co-pilot can bring the flaps up.
Flaps up.
There you go, flaps coming up. I'm going to accelerate to 150 knots, and we'll climb out at 150 knots. And there's METO power being set.
2600 RPM.
And yeah, we're departing McMurdo Station. Look at that. And you saw how long we were still over the runway there. This is a super long runway here at McMurdo Station. But this looks beautiful, doesn't it?
Power set.
This looks amazing.
Setting climb
There is
power.
kind of a beauty to this. Okay, we're going to start turning to the right here so that we can follow the GPS course towards Terra Nova Bay to the north.
Climb power set.
Climb power set.
After takeoff check.
We're climbing out at 150 knots here.
After takeoff checks complete.
I'm going to track on this heading until we intercept the GPS course there, which is up here. Okay, going to lower the nose, accelerate to 150 knots. Well, thanks for the kind words there, Will. I'm sort of glancing back and forth between chat and other things here. Going to accelerate to 150 knots. And one thing I got to be aware of course, is right over there, straight up ahead, are the slopes of Mount Erebus. You know, one of the tallest volcanoes in Antarctica. And actually, it might be the tallest volcano in Antarctica, if I'm not mistaken. And one of the very few rare active volcanoes here at the bottom of the world. Okay. Eventually I want to get myself in a position here to engage the autopilot and take a load off. So just going to trim the airplane out here. That's looking good to me. Just going to trim it out. Okay, let's get the autopilot on. So the autopilot is this big mess right here. So first thing I got to do is turn on the gyropilot switch. There you go. You can see a little blue light coming on to indicate that the autopilot is available. And then I turn on the autopilot by pulling this big mechanical autopilot disconnect handle up. So now I've connected the autopilot, and the autopilot is doing its thing. And because I've got my nav mode slaved to the GPS here, what I can do is I can I can engage localizer mode in the autopilot, and that's basically just nav mode. So now the autopilot will start tracking the GPS course. And I can control the pitch of the airplane to maintain about 150 knots. So I'm going to give it a little bit of a pitch up there to try and maintain about 150 knots in the climb. But we're doing good. We're climbing through 3,300 feet. We're established really well here. I'm pretty happy with everything I'm seeing. And let's check on the pressurization system up top here, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. Yeah, it's doing pretty good up here, so that's good. Yeah, everything's looking good to me up here, so that's great. All right. At least I think it's doing what it's supposed to. I noticed that the climb descent is in descent, so we'll monitor that every once in a while to make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. I hope it does what it's supposed to. It looks like it's catching up, so yeah, we'll leave that alone for now. It should catch up to itself. All right, let me catch up on chat here as we get going. All right, so there's the southern tip of Ross Island and McMurdo Station. We're saying goodbye to that, leaving that behind. And once we break through some of these layers of clouds here, we should be able to spot Mount Erebus back there. So that's going to be a pretty spectacular sight to see. All right, let me catch up on chat here as we get going. Will was saying you remember reading about an Air New Zealand flight that crashed into Mount Erebus. Yeah, totally, Will. That is part of the reason that Mount Erebus is so famous, or perhaps rather infamous, in the public imagination, is because that Air New Zealand crash from way back in the 70s. So the issue there was, you know, this was like a tour flight, right, in a DC-10. Essentially, they depart, you know, New Zealand. They just fly around the Ross Ice Shelf and around Mount Erebus on a sightseeing flight, and then they fly back to New Zealand without ever, you know, obviously touching down in the continent of Antarctica itself. The problem was, on the day of the flight, they updated the INS coordinates without necessarily informing the pilots. You know, there was some kind of mix-up, essentially. And there was a whole long, drawn-out investigation after that as to who was to blame and what happened. And it was a real mess. But the point was, you know, they screwed up the INS coordinates. And what happened was, instead of taking them over the Ross Ice Shelf, they actually ended up taking them right into Mount Erebus. And they were flying in conditions that were kind of similar to this, you know, so it was kind of like whiteout conditions. Like, if you notice, we're looking at Mount Erebus right now on the other side of the airplane. You cannot see it because there's a little bit of intermittent cloud cover here. So the conditions that they were flying in that day during the crash were very similar to what you're seeing right now. And unfortunately, tragedy struck, right? So, Night Shadow, how's it going, Night Shadow? Hope you're doing well. Aloha to you. Will was saying second highest in Antarctica. Awesome. Okay, thanks for clarifying that, Will. I wasn't sure. Log X says, you know what would be really cool if you redesign the DC-6, perhaps. So essentially, you're saying just design a modern airplane instead of the DC-6. They've sort of done that, right? They've sort of done that. If you look at the profile of the DC-6, right, you know, essentially, it's sort of like, you know, I'm sure they took some of the design elements of DC-6 and incorporated into, you know, some of the more, you know, newer Douglas aircraft, right, like DC-8 or whatever. I'm sure, though, that, you know, I know there are turboprop variants of the DC-3. So there are DC-3s where they've taken out the radials and retrofitted them with turboprops, and I'm sure, you know, they could do that with a DC-6 as well if they needed to. But part of the reason this airplane is so beloved, right, and so and still used by operators up in some pretty rugged parts of the world like Alaska and northern Canada, is because it's a really, really reliable airplane. And these engines, even though they require a lot of coaxing and love and a lot of words of encouragement and some occasional voodoo with blood sacrifices, despite all that, these engines are actually, they have a reputation for being super reliable, right? So yeah, it's this airplane has a reputation for being very, very rugged, which is part of the reason they still operate them to haul cargo, even up in Alaska and northern Canada to this day. Okay, just going to lower the nose here just a smidgen so that we can maintain 150 knots in the climb. And we're passing through 8,300 feet. Let's check on the pressurization controller up here. Okay, now thank God it's doing what it's supposed to. The only problem was the cabin pressure differential was rising super quickly, and that concerned me. So yeah, hopefully this thing does what it's supposed to and we don't have any potential issues. If this rises a bit too much, the cabin differential pressure there, what I'm probably going to have to do is level off at a lower altitude until the cabin pressurization system catches up to the airplane, and then we can continue climbing up to a cruising flight level. So we'll see what happens here. We'll keep a close eye on that. And of course, we're going to do our fuel tank management and all that stuff here as we get up to our cruising altitude as well. But let me catch up on chat here as we get going. Just going to turn down the engine sounds there a little bit. I know we all love the sounds of those radial engines, but I think it was drowning out the voice, or the sound of my voice. It's probably drowning out the chill background music as well, is my guess. Just going to turn up the chill background music up just a smidgen there. There we go. And let me catch up on chat here. Alex Ribas earlier was saying you'll be taking out the A2A Constellation. That's awesome, Alex. That's an airplane that I love flying as well. A2A airplanes are amazing, right? Because A2A makes their airplanes feel truly alive, right? It's really amazing just how much A2A airplanes feel like the real thing. You know, you can hear every rattle and shake and creak and groan. It's pretty amazing. The A2A Constellation, though, for me, it's like one of these nightmare airplanes to land. It's super twitchy when you're trying to land it, especially when you have, you know, the elevator boost on. So it's an airplane that I'm probably not going to have on stream anytime soon until I figure out how to land that thing properly. But it's a fun airplane to fly for sure. And Nicolas earlier was asking where is Terra Nova. I think I answered that question, right, Nicolas? Let me know in case I did not. Jacob earlier was saying flying's going pretty well, all things considered, and traffic is picking up again slowly. That is awesome there, Jacob. Yeah, I hope things are, by the way, going great for all of you folks in Europe. You know, obviously it's a bit of a nightmare here in the States with the number of cases just exploding through the roof. You know, yesterday we were up to 3,700 plus people dead in a single day. So it's just an absolute horrific nightmare cluster of a situation here in the US. I did hear some rumblings, right, that things are ticking up in Europe as well, but I hope it's you know, under control and going back down, and hopefully nothing like the situation here in the States. Let's check on things in the cockpit here. We're climbing through 11,300 feet. Okay, cabin differential pressure is staying relatively okay, so that's good. We'll keep an eye on that. That's good. Everything is looking good here. All right, we're looking great. And once we get about 14,000 feet, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on the superchargers to high. So that's going to be the plan. Okay, let's go back into some cinematic shots there as I catch up on chat. LogX earlier was saying the temperature is the same here in UK. Okay, that's really funny that the temperature in Antarctica and the United Kingdom is apparently exactly the same. It's really interesting how that works out, huh? Let's see, what else did I miss? Jacob earlier was saying you fly the A320 for a pretty well-known European airline. That's awesome. Jacob, weren't you in the corporate side of things for a while? I thought you were flying the A320 corporate, actually, but that's super cool, though, you're flying in the airlines. I did not realize that. And Jacob also was saying you got your first passenger today that refused to wear a mask, which was fun. Oh my god. Yeah, you know, I just don't understand the anti-maskers. Just yesterday, actually, there was news of a congressman-elect from the state of Louisiana who passed away, and he was an anti-masker, you know, and he was super young too, just 41 years old, and he died of COVID. And you know, you feel terrible for him, and you feel terrible for his family, his kids. But at the same time, you're like, my God, you know, if he just worn a mask, you know, all the pain, you know, just think of all the pain and suffering he could have prevented, right? For himself and his family. So I never can understand people who refuse to wear masks, especially in close proximity to other people. You know, it's just crazy. It's just nuts. Let's see, what else did I miss in chat? Night Shadow was saying, what simulator am I in today? Caught part of my flight of Burbank this morning before work. Night Shadow, we are in the good old trusty Prepar platform. We're in P3D version 4.5 today. And we're in the PMDG DC6. That's the airplane we're flying. And the scenery I'm using right now is the LimeSim Aerosoft Antarctica X. Okay, we're through 14,000 feet here. That's basically the critical altitude at which we want to get our blowers or engine superchargers to high. So obviously, right, you can imagine, you know, piston engines, I'm sure you know this, piston engines obviously can't sustain power the higher they get, like turboprops do, or jet engines do. So as you get higher, there eventually comes a point where you reach something called a critical altitude, where the engine is just not producing enough power to sustain the climb performance it needs. So at that point, you turn on the engine superchargers. These are up here. So these 4 switches up here. I'm going to turn the blowers to high. There you go. And once your blowers go to high, you can see how quickly we pick up power there. So the flight engineer right now is automatically, you know, bringing the throttle levers back. You notice the throttle levers are moving back? So he's bringing the throttle levers back there to maintain 40 inches manifold pressure, which is our typical climb power setting. So all of a sudden, our climb performance went from sort of anemic to nominal, which is great. So that's why you have the superchargers there. They're really helping the climb. So now we're back up to 1,000 foot per minute climb rate. We're through 15,300 feet. We're going to climb up to 18,000 feet. I was actually reading about this. This is super interesting. In Antarctica, the transition altitude is 18,000 feet, right? Just like it is in the United States. But the transition level is flight level 200. So that was kind of super interesting to read. There's actually this super interesting document that I can show you real quick. The U.S. Antarctic Program Interagency Air Operations Manual. Let me show you this here real quick. The U.S. Antarctic Program Interagency Air Operations Manual. This actually has a lot of good information, if you Google this, on flying in Antarctica. So it has information on the airfields in use. It has information on, you know, ATC availability, towered field operations, untowered field operations, you know, services available at different airfields, operating minimums, etc. So that's super cool, you know, that it's got all of that available. So I recommend checking this out. It's a pretty cool manual for sure. I wonder if there's something I wanted to show you here, but we'll come back to that in a second. We might actually, if you have a little bit of time, we might go through that manual in a bit more detail. But I want to keep a close eye on my altimeter here, because we're coming up on our cruising altitude of 18,000 feet in a hurry here. Let me catch up on chat as we go. Yeah, Night Shadow, totally. The PMDG does look pretty good. Raptor earlier was saying, finally, Erebus comes out from behind the clouds. Yeah, totally. Yeah, and you can see just how tall it is, right? It's pretty amazing. It's, I think, about 12,000, maybe taller, 12,000 feet or taller, if I'm not mistaken. And below us, by the way, is the Ross ice shelf, right? So you can look at that. You can see all the icebergs and ice flows floating in the Ross Sea below us. That looks super cool. Okay, we're coming up on 18,000 feet here. As we come up on 18,000, I'm going to start leveling the airplane off. Okay, through 17,600 there. I'm going to start pitching the nose down, reducing our rate of climb so that we can level off at 18,000. So the reason I have this weird view here where my head is angled down is because I'm controlling the autopilot. The autopilot wheel is here to control the pitch. And I got a right click to pitch the nose down, got a left click to pitch the nose up. So there we go, coming up on 18,000. There's 18,000, altitude control on, and the aircraft should maintain 18,000. There we go. All right, altitude control on. This autopilot, by the way, is like super rudimentary, right? It's got pitch, roll, and yaw servos. So it's got servos that can control the rudder, aileron, and elevator, and you can see those servos there, right? Or the position of those controls there. It's got a gyropilot switch, which essentially controls your lateral navigation modes, and then you've got actually, gyropilot controls the autopilot in general, I guess, but it's got a pitch wheel that controls your pitch up and pitch down. It's got gyropilot, which allows you to use the turn knob to turn the airplane left or right. Localizer mode, which allows you to slave the autopilot to the navigation system, whether it's using a VOR or using the GPS. Approach mode, which lets you also fly an ILS and a glide slope. And it's got altitude control, which lets you maintain a set altitude of flight level. So that's great. So we're at 18,000 feet. I totally forgot to reset my altimeter, so that's why now I've reset my altimeter, and we're descending down to 18,000 at you know, standard atmosphere, right, or standard baro setting of 29 or 9 or 2. We have super low pressure in this part of the world, which is the reason the altimeter is indicating 19,000 at 29 or 9 or 2, but just 18,000 at 2864 or whatever it was. Okay, let's check out the pressurization system. That's doing what it's supposed to. The other thing I want to do is set up my fuel tanks for the cruise. So I'm going to have the flight engineer run through the cruise flows and set cruise power, and I am going to set my fuel tanks. So let's talk about the fuel tanks. We didn't get to do this during our last stream in the DC-6, but we actually have a whole bunch of fuel tanks in the DC-6. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8 fuel tanks. So we've got 4 main fuel tanks and 4 alternate fuel tanks. And what's really interesting about this airplane is you always want to have at least a little bit of fuel left, preferably equalized with the outboard tanks and the inboard tanks. You never want to run the outboard tanks dry. So once you get to cruise, what you want to do is switch from the main tanks, which you were using during takeoff and climb, to the alternate tanks. And then you want to run the alternate tanks down until there's about 200 pounds or so left in the alternate tanks, and then you can switch back to the mains and run the mains. So there's a little bit of a fuel management aspect of flying the DC-6 that is actually modeled really nicely by PMDG. So the fuel tank selectors are here. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to select the alternate tanks. So tank 1, tank 2, tank 3, and tank 4 selectors to the alternate tanks. And now we're running fuel off all the alternate tanks. Just going to check to make sure that fuel pressure is still good. And what we're going to do now is going to run fuel off all the alternate tanks. And if you notice, all these fuel gauges, right, have slightly different fuel level indications. Right now, I've got more fuel in my outboard alternate tanks than I do in my inboard alternate tanks. So what that means is I'm going to run my inboard tanks down to 200 pounds way quicker than I'm going to run my outboard alternate tanks down. So I'm going to watch the inboard tanks super close over the course of the flight, and once we get down to about 200 pounds in the inboard tanks, then I'm going to switch the inboard fuel supply back to the inboard main tanks. So that's going to be the plan. So there we go. That's all looking good. Pretty happy with what I'm seeing right now. Yeah, we're doing good. Let's check on the distance to go to Terra Nova. We have about 125 nautical miles to go. I want to set up my VNAV here. So let's go to menu. Let's go to VNAV. And why can't I put in a VNAV profile here? Let's try this. Let's try going direct to Terra Nova. Flight plan, Terra Nova, direct. Okay, there we go. And flight plan, menu, VNAV. That's so weird. Usually I can put in like a target altitude. Let's try this actually. Let's try a different tack here. Let's try being at Terra Nova NDB at like 1,500 feet. Let's try putting that in. Oops, 1,500 feet. Enter and save. And let's try going direct to Terra Nova again. Okay. The NDB, right? I mean, okay. Let's do that. And now let's try to put in. Whoops. Now let's try to put in a VNav path. There we go. Now we can do it. Okay. So Terra Nova at 1,500 feet. And I'm going to aim for an altitude, or sorry, a vertical speed target during the descent of 500 feet per minute. It's typically you want like a super shallow rate of descent of this airplane because once again, it's got a geared, the engines are geared, and you don't want the prop turning the gear. You want the gear mechanism turning the prop. What's interesting is it's actually calling for me to start descending right now. So there you go. We're going to start descending right now. So I'm going to make sure the pressurization panel is set up correctly. So I'm aiming for about, you know, I think the airport, yeah, it's an ice runway. It's built on the sea ice, so the airport elevation is 0 feet. So I got my pressurization panel set. Let's go ahead and start descending. So we're going to descend at 500 feet per minute here. Altitude control off. And let's start descending. And I'm sorry, folks. I know I've been terrible about catching up on chat. I'll try to catch up here in just a little bit. Let's see what our Czech captain thinks of how terrible I've been about catching up on chat today. Let's see what our Czech captain thinks. And let's have our co-pilot run through the descent checks here. So co-pilot's going to send 26 inches of manifold pressure for the descent. And we're going to descend at about 500 to 600 feet per minute there. Oops, sorry, I forgot to go back to my P3D scene there. But yeah, he seems pretty sarcastic, or he seems like he's not super pleased with my performance. Let me catch up on chat here, folks. I'm sorry, I know I missed a ton. Yeah, LogX, they do indeed fit the DC-3s with turboprops. So there's actually pictures online. I just think it looks weird. A DC-3 with a turboprop just looks super weird. It just looks weird, in my view. Okay, we're descending. We're a little bit high on profile, but that's fine. No big deal. Because we can circle over the fields and lose altitude. So we're all good there. And actually, you know, I mentioned how transition level was 20,000 feet, or flight level 200. So now we can reset altimeters to our local altimeter setting at NZTB, which is about, let's see, it's about 2875 at the moment. So that's good enough for me. Yeah, that's good. All right. Okay, we're doing great. About 109 miles to go to Terra Nova. And one thing I'm looking out for, by the way, is because I don't want to be super reliant on the GPS. I'm only using the GPS because I don't have any sort of like INS system modeled or any of the sort of like, you know, sophisticated navigation system that they would have had, you know, for DC-6s that flew in Antarctica way back in the day, right? I'm sure they had something that was much more suitable for flying in the polar, you know, up here, you know, in the high latitudes closer to the South Pole, and especially this close to the magnetic South Pole. I'm sure they had a way of like, you know, finding true headings and displaying true headings, you know, on your navigation gauges, you know, but I don't have that ability in the PMDG DC6, unfortunately, which is why I'm using the GPS. But what I want to do is as soon as I can pick up the Terra Nova NDB, I want to be using the Terra Nova NDB and start disregarding the GPS. So I've got my RMI needles up here, and what I'm looking for is for the needle for the ADF-1, the Terra Nova NDB, to start coming alive. I don't know exactly when it's going to come alive, right? It depends on the range of the NDB. For whatever reason, I think this NDB only has a range of about 20 nautical miles. I thought it should be 100, but for some reason it's modeled at 20 nautical miles. So we're going to wait until we get within 20 nautical miles of the NDB. We'll see that needle swing around to indicate direct to the NDB, and we'll take that bearing up to proceed to the NDB. Then we can find the field or fly it visually, loose altitude, select a runway to land on, and we'll go from there. So that's going to be the plan. Yeah, Night Shadow. It wasn't 2 to 3 years ago, actually, believe it or not. It was just last year. It was about a year and a couple of months ago. And in fact, we actually did that that same flight live in the PMDG 747 on a live stream just a few months ago, you know, just back in the summer, right before MSFS came out. So that was super fun. But wow, look at all the floating ice shelves below us. The floating ice sheets. That's a lot of ice down there. That's a shocking amount of ice down there. Look at that. You know, in case you're wondering why some of us are concerned about climate change, this is why. You know, imagine this much ice stop being ice and start becoming water, right? Ice, of course, has a much you know, the density is different from liquid water, and that's part of the reason climate change and our melting ice sheets are of such concern to scientists around the world and the governments around the world as well. But wow, look at that. That's a lot of ice. That's a lot of ice. Okay, got about 95 miles to go. We're doing great. Gonna keep an eye on the fuel tanks here. We got a long ways to go before we're gonna run the alternate tanks dry. By the way, I purposefully took enough fuel for not just the flight to Terra Nova, but the flight back to McMurdo. And the reason I did that is because, as you can imagine, here in Antarctica, fuel stations are few and far between. And so you always carry a lot of extra fuel when you're flying in Antarctica. In fact, what I heard is that when they fly the C-17s or C-130s here, they actually carry enough fuel to make the return trip from McMurdo back to Christchurch. Very rarely do they ever refuel at McMurdo Station. Usually they're actually ferrying fuel to the station for use locally by helicopters and, you know, the Twin Otters that are based there, things like that. Roland Sibring, it's going good, Roland. How about yourself? I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. Thanks for hanging out with us today. Hope you're doing great. Hope everybody else in chat is doing great. Thanks for hanging out today, all of you. Hope you're all doing awesome. Okay, let me catch up on chat here. Will was saying you started booking some things for Oshkosh 2021. Are you planning to try the 2020 plan again next year? That sounds awesome, Will. Yeah, I hope that I hope that things work out for Oshkosh 2021 way better than they did this year. You know, I got to tell you, I think we're all very, very much looking forward to the end of this just absolutely horrific cluster of a year. You know, 2021 can't get here soon enough, and here's hoping that 2021 is a way, way better year than this year ever could have been. I just realized I was squawking VFR this entire time. That's fine. Okay, we're doing great. We're descending through 12,500 there. Just going to increase my rate of descent just a little bit there. All right, we're doing great. Roland, it was fantastic. It was great. It wasn't as great as my prior Christmases. You know, couldn't see family in person as much as we have in prior years, obviously. We did do the Zoom thing to connect with relatives across the country and at least, you know, be able to share some FaceTime with folks that we usually get to see this time of year that obviously we couldn't see this year because of the pandemic. But Christmas was good, all things considering. It was good. How was yours? I hope everybody in chat had a wonderful Christmas. My, I don't know what kind of presents y'all picked up for Christmas, but the one Christmas present that I got from a family member that I just absolutely loved this year was a pair of Halcyon goggles for when I eventually decide to go do some more open cockpit biplane flying. That's the kind of flying I've always wanted to get into more. I've got like a half hour in a Stearman with a friend, but I've been thinking about doing a bit more flying now that I have access to a Great Lakes biplane through my through one of the flying clubs that I'm affiliated with. I actually have access now to a Great Lakes flying plane. Did I say flying plane? A Great Lakes biplane is what I meant to say. I've been thinking. So that was a really nice present to have, because that motivates me now to try and hopefully get some more biplane time. Hopefully in the next year, once this pandemic is done. All right, we got 78 miles to go to Terra Nova. We're descending through 11,200. We're doing great. We're doing good. Yeah, well, yourself as well. Thanks for hanging out. And James, thanks for hanging out to you as well. Yeah, both of you have a fantastic new year. Thanks for hanging out, and wish you nothing but the best for 2021. Look forward to catching you then. Night Shadow says barrel rolls. Okay. Well, oh, you mean for, yeah, the biplane, yeah. I'm actually not super into the aerobatic stuff, but I do love, the feel of, the feel of being in an open cockpit biplane. I love that feeling of, I ride motorcycles as well, IRL, right? So I love the freedom that comes with riding motorcycles, and that same sort of difference between riding a motorcycle and driving a car, that same sort of difference is there, flying a biplane, like an open cockpit biplane, versus flying an airplane with an enclosed cockpit, right? So that's one of the super cool things about flying a biplane. You get that sense of incredible freedom that comes from, being in the, being pretty much exposed to the elements, right? So that's super cool about biplanes. Wow, look at that! You can actually see the icebergs in the sea below us. So if you notice, every once in a while you'll see like a three-dimensional model of an iceberg below us. That's super cool. That's actually modeled in the scenery, right? There we go. Oh wait, not there. We'll probably see another one pretty shortly here. There we go, right below us. You see the little sombrero-shaped, little witch's hat or sombrero-shaped iceberg below us. That's actually modeled in 3D. That's super cool. There's an iceberg below us that looks like a witch's hat. That's super cool. It's one of the things I love flight simming for, right? Being able to kind of check out these really kind of amazing parts of the world that you would never be able to fly IRL. Yeah, and there's a couple of other 3D models of icebergs behind us as well on the other side of that floating ice shelf. Or that floating ice sheet, rather. There's a couple of other three-dimensional icebergs there. That's super cool. Cabriolet glider, says Roland. Yeah, there's actually a few gliders that are open cockpit as well. And those are fun. I'm trying to remember, isn't the Schweizer 126? Isn't that one? That's a really like old glider, right? That is open cockpit, if I'm not mistaken. You've just got a little windscreen in front of you, but other than that, it's completely open cockpit. The 126. Okay, we're descending through 9,900 there. Got about 63 miles to go. Let's check on our vertical profile here. VNav. Okay, now we're back on profile. That's great. So I can shallow my rate of descent a little bit here. We're going to level off at about 2,000 to 1,500 feet. Actually, maybe even 3,000 feet, depending on how we're feeling. We're probably going to circle over the field to lose altitude and also kind of figure out, you know, what runway we want to land on, where the winds are coming from, all that stuff. Let's check on the pressurization panel here. Yeah, that's looking good. Cabin is depressurizing, yeah, the cabin is depressurizing as we get lower, obviously, to match the outside air pressure by the time we get down to field elevation. And let's check on our fuel gauges here. Yep, everything is showing what I need it to be showing right now. We're running fuel off the alternate tanks, and we're going to switch back to the main tanks during the approach. So that's all looking great. All right, folks, we're doing awesome. We're doing awesome. Whoops. Let me catch up on chat here as we get going. Roland earlier was saying you were wondering, you did a VATSIM flight this evening to Munich due to the Midwalk Munich event. You were wondering if I'm in one day for a European VATSIM event. Roland, it's been a while since I've flown in a European VATSIM event. I think primarily due to the time difference, if I'm not mistaken, but that's something that I need to get back into. All right, do you know of any interesting ones that are coming up that might be worth checking out? Because that could be fun to do. I'm trying to remember the last time I did a European VATSIM event, and I can't. I've done, you know, some VATSIM flying in Greece on stream before. But that was completely unplanned. You know, I was streaming, and one of our viewers happens to be a controller for VATSIM Greece, and he jumped in and he was like, "Hey, you know, I can provide controlling services." Since you're flying at a Samos on channel, and that was super cool. So those are the only times I usually join VATSIM on stream in Europe, is if I have a controller jump in and say, "Hey, you know, I'm watching your stream and I'm controlling as well. You know, I'd be happy to control for you." But yeah, I probably need to check out some of these VATSIM events more. Castillos, how's it going? Thanks for hanging out today. FSXer YouTube was asking which bike did I say I had. I don't, FSXer. I've got a motorcycle license. I used to ride. I don't have a motorcycle right now. I used to actually have a Triumph Scrambler for a while. But you know, so this is way back when. I don't ride right now, but I used to ride a lot. I don't ride right now though. But I'm more into, like, you know, retro style bikes. You know, I especially love like cafe racers, scramblers, you know, bikes like that. Much more old school. I'm not into the whole choppers or super bikes, pocket rockets, that sort of thing. Those bikes don't really appeal to me. I don't have a Discord server there, Castillos, unfortunately. I have a Discord account that I used to communicate with folks from time to time, but no Discord channel. Whoops. Trying to get the sound effects or the engine sounds down a little bit there so that we can listen to the chill audio a little bit. Castillo's asking, how can I show how to get those cinematic views? Castillo's, the cinematic views come from ChasePlane. So ChasePlane is a camera add-on for P3D. And let me see if I can pull this up here real quick to show you. Give me 1 second. Let me go back to my desktop capture scene. There you go. So this is ChasePlane. This is the interface for ChasePlane. And ChasePlane has a lot of cool cinematic shots, you know, and with their latest update, I can actually now even add like interior shots for ChasePlane. So ChasePlane can now do these automatic cinematic shots, even featuring shots from inside the cockpit, which is like super cool. So yeah, and you can actually select, you know, which views you want incorporated outside of the automatic views, and you can tell it, you know, how often to change the camera angle. You know, I change my camera angle every 15 seconds. There's one of those interior shots that I mentioned. That looks super cool. You know, the speed of the camera motion, zoom factors, you know, fade in, fade out, all that jazz, you know, you can control using ChasePlane, which is super cool. All right, so that's ChasePlane for you. Okay. Wow, look at all the icebergs up ahead. You got a ton of them floating in the sea there. That looks amazing. So this is Terra Nova Bay, straight up ahead, by the way. So this is the bay that the Mario Zuchelli station is based at, and it's based at the very northern end of the bay. And you've also got sea ice, you know, from the months of like October until about early December, where the sea ice is thick enough that you can actually build these sea ice runways. And so that's what we're headed towards. IRL, I think it's probably too warm to land airplanes in the sea ice runways. At this point, the sea ice is probably starting to break up and melt. And eventually, you know, the sea ice completely disappears from the bay. And then, you know, you switch to shipping in order to bring supplies to the base. So just the way it is at McMurdo Station, right? When the sea ice is thick enough, you use airplanes to ferry supplies to the base. And when the sea ice melts, then the shipping channels open up, and you can bring all your supplies, fuel, etc. Via ships. So there you go. Okay, we're descending through 5,600 feet there. Let's see how far away we are. We're about 38 miles out, and we're still not picking up the NDB just yet, unfortunately. So you notice the RMI there is completely dead. There's no bearing indication from the NDB just yet. So we're waiting to pick up that NDB. Once we pick it up, then we can go off of that and look to find the airport visually. So that's the hope. And you can probably see there's a little bit of haze there. Like you can see some of the mountain peaks in Terra Nova Bay peeking up above the haze. So that gives me a little bit of reason for caution here. Like, oh my god, what is the visibility going to be like at Terra Nova? Unfortunately, Active Sky doesn't have a station for Terra Nova. So if I put an NZTB into Active Sky, as you can see here, I'm just putting NZTB into Active Sky and nothing shows up. So I'm just going off of what is shown locally here. Current conditions at aircraft position, pressure is 2884, temperature -2, dew point -12, and winds are essentially calm. It's out of the north at 3 knots. So I'm just going to set my altimeter to 2884. So let me do that here real quick, 2884. There we go, that's set. Let me catch up on chat here. Castillos, I think there is a route command. One sec. Oh, there is a route command, but I don't have my route set up today. I mean, the route is really straightforward. You know, we're just going directly to the ITA NDB, and then we're going from there visually to the airport. So it's very, very straightforward routing today. Didn't see the need to put all that stuff in because in real life, right, my guess is they had some form of an inertial navigation system or some form of radar control way back in the day when the Air Force and Navy operated DC-6s for missions to Antarctica. So back then, you know, what they could have done was, you know, directly put in into the INS, you know, your coordinates for your destination, and not have to worry too much about, you know, routing and all that stuff, right? Depending on the altitude you were cruising at. Or, you know, if you had radar control, you know, you could get vectors until you could pick up a nav aid en route. My challenge, as I was mentioning earlier, is that it took me a while to pick up the NDB, but there you go. Now we're picking up the NDB. So there's ADF-1 there. It's the skinny arrow. That's the NDB. So that's fantastic. So what I'm going to do now is put my lateral navigation mode back to gyropilot, and I'm going to what we're going to do is we're going to disregard the GPS because we don't really need that besides, you know, like a DME or, you know, a distance readout. What we're going to do, because we've picked up the NDB bearing there, we're going to fly that bearing direct to the NDB station. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm going to use my turn knob here to turn to that bearing, and we'll fly that bearing direct to the station. There we go. Okay, we're tracking direct to the station there. We're flying that bearing to the India Tango Alpha NDB. Mario Zuchelli, Terra. Okay, that's looking good. Yeah, thanks. I think you picked up on that before I did there, Roland, because I was paying too much attention to blabbing away here. That I totally missed the NDB needle coming alive, so we just picked it up. That's awesome. Okay, so we're 23 miles out. I'm going to descend down to, you know what, I'm going to descend down to about 2,000 feet. Obviously, we've got high mountains all around the airport and the bay that, the station is located at. So I don't want to descend too low, you know, because then we're going to have terrain issues. But the good thing is the visibility looks good enough here for me to land visually. So that's great. This looks amazing. Let's see, what else did I miss here? FSXer YouTube was saying, yeah, love retros. Absolutely, FSXer. FSXer, are you a motorcycle man yourself? Or I'm not sure if you're a man or a gal, but are you a motorcycle person yourself? And if so, what kind of bike do you ride, out of curiosity? You know, I do miss riding my own bike. I really do. Every once in a while, you know, when we go on vacation, I might rent, right, just to get my motorcycle fix. But I do miss riding my own bike. Okay, let's see. We're descending through 3,200. I'm going to level off at 2,000. We'll run our in-range checks, and we'll start slowing down as we get closer to the airport. 17 miles out here. We're following that bearing straight to the NDB. Everything's looking great. And let's check on, or I'm just going to pull up my checklist here. Descent checks, we've run that. Okay, just got all the numbers I need here. That's looking good. Okay, let me take a swig of Kona coffee here, folks. And in preparation for the landing, let me go now to a live shot inside the cockpit of all the intense preparations that are going on involving imbibing copious amounts of Kona coffee prior to the landing. Let's go now to a live shot in the cockpit. That's right. Got to chug that Kona coffee and get ready for landing on the ice here in Antarctica. And this is super tricky, obviously, because there is very little distinction between the ice and the runway, right? The runway is pretty much carved into the ice, and all you have to mark the runways is a series of black flags. So I'm looking for those black flags to help me delineate the outline of the runways. There's 2 parallel runways, and then there's 1 crosswind runway. Wow, look at that iceberg down there. That's a really nice 3D model of an iceberg. You know, I'm always continually impressed by how much detail went into this scenery from Limestone. That looks amazing. Okay, coming up on 2,000 feet here, we're going to level off at 2,000. And let's go ahead and run our in-range checks.
Cooling turbine. Normal. Fuel booster pumps. On low. Fuel tank selectors. Mains on, crossfeed off. Hydraulic bypass valve.
Okay, we got Terra Bay up ahead. I can see the sea ice, and we should be able to pick up the runways here in just a hot minute as we get closer. In-range checks complete, just heard it. And coming up on 2,000, we're going to level off at 2,000. Almost there, almost there. Okay, there we go, going to level off at 2,000 feet. And I'm going to, at this point, take over the throttles from the flight engineer, and that way I can reduce my speed a little bit here. So, you know how I mentioned this is a geared, these engines are geared, right? So, I want to be making sure I'm always maintaining positive torque there on the BMEP gauges. So I don't want to bring the thrust back too far. So about there should be good enough to help me reduce speed. My goal here is to reduce my speed below 175 knots. Below 175 knots, I can get my flaps to flaps 20, and I can get my landing gear down, and that'll help me slow down significantly. I'm not allowed to really, bring the throttles back to idle until I'm on short final, just about a touchdown, basically. Okay, but the good news is, actually, one second. I don't know how I missed this, but I totally forgot to get my position lights flashing earlier, but that's fine. Straight up ahead is the airport. So there's the airport right there. We got the runways. We're going to circle over the runways, losing some speed and altitude. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to turn off the autopilot, altitude control off, autopilot mechanical disconnect to disconnect, and gyropilot off as well. So now I'm taking over, flying manually. We're coming up on 175 knots there. Below 175 knots, I'm going to go ahead and cycle the landing gear down, and I'm going to start getting the flaps out to help us slow down. Okay, there are the runways below us. What I'm going to do is I'm going to land on the far left runway towards the west. So that's going to be my plan. Okay, I can get flaps 20 now, and I'm going to fly it downwind for that runway that's just off to the left there. Okay, let's run our before landing checks here.
Flaps 20. Setting flaps 20.
All right, we're doing good.
20 flaps set.
How's everybody doing in chat? We run into these little lulls in the chat sometimes, where everybody goes silent. I'm assuming out of respect for the process. I kid. But you notice, it's so hard to tell the difference between the runways and the ice. The only thing that makes you see the difference is a slight color variation, where the runways have been carved out, and as well the little black flags that line both edges of the runways there. So there's two parallel runways here, and then there's one crosswind runway there. What I'm going to do is land on that runway over there. So that's going to be my plan. Landing lights being extended there. And below 150 knots, I can go ahead and get flaps 30, I believe. Here we go. We're in the white arc, so flaps 30. And we'll go ahead and land on that runway there. By the way, in real life, what I would obviously be doing if I was doing this, flying a traffic pattern, is I'd be looking out the side of the window like that. It's so hard to do that because I don't have my view preset set up correctly in the sim, but let me try this actually real quick. It's a little hard to do, but let me try this every once in a while. So let's go ahead and turn base here. Going to shallow my rate of descent a little bit as I turn base. And let's go, actually let's leave it at flaps 30. We'll go flaps 50 on short final. And I got to remember to kick in some left rudder as I get in some left roll. Turning base here, obviously. And I think I lost sight of the runway. No, I got it. I got the runway. It's up ahead. I sort of turned a 45 to final here instead of turning a proper base. But there's the runway up ahead, so that's good. You know, obviously in flight sim, even with track IR, like it's super hard to... It's too hard, even with Xanax, how's it going? I love that. I love that little sound clip there. It's too hard, even with track IR and flight sim, to swivel your head the way you would in real life in a real airplane. It's super hard to fly a traffic pattern the way you would in real life. Okay, let's get flaps 40, and as we roll out in final here, we'll get flaps 50. Okay, let's go flaps 50, full flaps. We'll slow to 105 knots. on short final. And yeah. And this is where this the angled side window on this in this cockpit just makes it super difficult to get a bead on when I'm properly aligned with the runway. But there we go, we're over the threshold. Gonna start bringing the power back, and we'll slowly start leveling off here. Got plenty of runway, slowly start leveling off. And there we go. Touchdown. That worked out nicely. Throttles to idle. And yeah, let's go ahead and slow down here. We'll roll out all the way to the end of the runway. We'll park next to a C-130 that's at the end of the runway. And then we'll figure out what we want to do next as we check out some replays. So we could either make the return leg back to McMurdo Station, or we could do another route, which is fly between Fossil Bluff and Rothera Station in a different part of the continent. Alright. But see, the only thing you have to mark the runway here is these black flags. So there you go. And those black flags are also like a good way of figuring out when to judge your flare and your height, and how to judge your height above the runway as well. So there you go. Okay, we'll park right next to that C-130 there. And then we'll check out some replays. And this is kind of interesting. I think the C-130 is actually flown by a private operator. They're called, we're going to see the name here in a second, Sapphire, Antarctic, correction, Adventure Network International. There you go. Adventure Network International. ANI. They fly airplanes out here. I'm not sure they fly C-130s. I think they've flown a DC-6 here in the past. But anyway, that's who they are. Just gonna park right next to that dude, and let's go ahead and check out a replay. Let's see how he did here. Alright, so couple of options. Either we return back to McMurdo, or we fly a completely different leg, which is about the same length as, you know, roughly about the same length as what we had just now. But that leg would be going from Fossil Bluff to Rothera Station. And I'll show you this on the map so you know exactly where that is. The nice thing about Rothera Station is, unlike McMurdo Station, where you have a super nice long runway, you know, that's literally kilometers long, right, at McMurdo Station, Rothera Station has a really short gravel strip. And we've never, you know, had it on my channel before, but it's super well modeled by LimeSim. So we might check that out instead of returning to McMurdo. But we might do a poll to figure out which one we want to do. Oh my god, I just leveled off literally feet above the runway. And that was almost like a 3-point landing, because I barely pulled the power. I had such a hard time judging my altitude. I had such a hard time judging my altitude there. This is ChasePlane for replays there, Roland. It's ChasePlane. You know, my personal preference is to hit up Rothera, so we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that here in a second. We'll do a tower view real quick, and then I'll pull up Google Maps in the background while we're watching the tower view of the replay. Or not Google Maps, but Google Earth, because that has my the stuff I can show you here for the scenery, where everything is, etc. You know, the one thing I refuse to believe is they actually have those lights on the ice there. The you know, the what do you call it? Rails? Is that what you call it? Oh, not rails, but the high intensity or medium intensity, you know, approach path lights there. I don't think they have that IRL. But I landed like super flat there because I barely took the power out. And with these like, you know, massive, you know, like barn door flaps here, you see these massive barn door flaps, the airplane actually, like I'm going to show you here in a second, the airplane is actually pitched down during the approach on short final. I'm actually pitched down, like you'll notice. So when I start rounding out, I'm actually leveling out initially, and then I gotta remember consciously to take out power before the airplane will slow down enough that I can actually raise the nose. But that's the reason here. You know, I just failed to take out enough power right before touchdown. That's the reason we landed so flat. Gotta remember to be careful about that. Yeah, Roland, it depends on the airplane. You know, it depends on the add-on. With some add-ons, it doesn't remember the flap setting. Like, I think the FS Labs, it doesn't remember it. Yeah, that was like a super flat, you know, that was basically a 3-point landing, which is never a good thing in a tricycle gear airplane. That was basically a 3-point landing. Okay, I got Google Earth up here. Let me show you what the game plan is. Whoops, hold on. Okay, there we go. Got Google Earth. Boy, the orientation's a little off. Okay, there we go. Let me go to my desktop capture scene. So this is Google Earth. Once again, this is the KMZ file that comes packaged with Aerosoft Antarctica X scenery that has all the airports and different landmarks that are modeled in scenery. This is where we were earlier, right? We were flying from the Ross Ice Shelf and McMurdo Station up to Terra Nova Bay. So here's where we are right now. We're Mario Zuchelli Station and the Mario Zuchelli ice runways at on Terra Nova Bay, right? So either we can make the return trip from Mario Zuchelli back to McMurdo, or we could fly we can do another flight here in Antarctica as well. That's the same distance, about the same length, from Fossil Bluff to Rothera Station. So where's Rothera Station? It's right around here somewhere. There it is. Okay, so there's Rothera Station. So this is a United Kingdom research station in Antarctica, right there, Rothera Station. And the identifier is Echo Golf Alpha Romeo. And we could fly from the Fossil Bluff Skiway to Rothera Station. That's what I'm thinking. Next, instead of making the return leg. So let me know what you guys think in chat. The nice thing about Rothera, it's actually a gravel runway, and it's super short, which will make for a nice challenging approach to call it a day. So let me know what you think in chat. Let's go back to the P3D scene. We'll do another replay here. Whoops. Let's do a wing view with the engines and everything. Actually, one second. Instead of that, let's do a belly cam. I love my belly cam shots during my replays. You gotta have at least one belly cam. LogX, hey, thanks for hanging out so far, LogX. We'll catch you next time. You take care. Let's see, what else did I miss in chat? Yeah, totally, Roland. Default P3D is terrible for sure. Night Shadow was saying, guess we will need to make your call sign Snoopy. I'm all for that. I love that call sign, Night Shadow. Especially given my interest in open cockpit and biplane flying. I absolutely love that. Love that call sign. That works for me. Yeah, you can see I'm coming in super flat because, again, just had such a hard time judging my altitude above the runway. And then I just sort of leveled off and basically just barely touched the mains first before the nose came down. Yeah, that could have led to a porpoise. That was not an ideal situation there. Alright, so nobody has any opinions in chat, huh, about the return or Fossil Bluff to McMurdo. You know what? We'll do Fossil Bluff to McMurdo in that case. If you're going to leave it up to me, we'll do Fossil Bluff to McMurdo. Let me though. One thing I want to do is make sure that I actually have that in the GPS. EGAR. Yeah, that's actually here in the GPS, so that's great. Yeah, we can do that just fine. We can do Fossil Bluff to McMurdo. Or correction, Fossil Bluff to Rothera. So that's going to be the next leg in that case. Night Shadow says you like the second one. Alright, going once, going twice. Sold! We're gonna do Fossil Bluff to oh my god, Night Shadow, watch out, watch out. Streamlabs Streamlabs didn't like the all caps. Sorry about that, Night Shadow. But Night Shadow, just to make up for Streamlabs yelling at you, we're definitely going to do the one you want to see happen, which is the second one. Okay, let me go ahead and stop the ChasePlane replay here. And here's what we're going to do. We're going to reposition. Let's go to desktop capture. And actually, one second. And we're going to reposition here. Let's go to airport. Let's go to Fossil Bluff. There, Fossil Bluff Skiway. There you go. And unfortunately, we're going to spawn in the active runway. No choice, really, because there's no spot. You know, some of the airports in the scenery are not as well modeled as others. But you know, as opposed to going through everything we just did, like an engine start and all that jazz, let's just go ahead and load up on the runway. We'll take off and we can focus on the flying and of landing at Rothera rather. And actually, we're going to have a fun, challenging takeoff as well, because Fossil Bluff has a super short skiway. So we're going to do a water injection takeoff, which is going to be a ton of fun. Okay, there we go. We're good. We're loading up at Fossil Bluff, so we'll let that happen. So we'll let that load up. And actually, let me go back to my, be right back screen while the sim is loading up here. I wanted to take a quick couple-minute break here, folks, as we were loading up the next leg of the trip. Whoops, 1 second. One second, I gotta... Let's go to the active runway again, please. Okay, now we're loaded up. That's good. Just want to make sure my parking brake is set. There we go. Okay, so this is like a super short skiway that's on the slope of a mountain here. And the only thing that marks the skiway, by the way, is the only thing that marks the skiway are some of these drums here, and a red flag at the end of the runway. That's it. And we're actually up in the clouds too, so this is going to make this even more challenging. 1 second here. I'm just going to quickly get rid of the weather, because I just want to see what the terrain looks like. Okay, so you see what the terrain looks like around the airport. Once we take off, as quickly as we can, we want to start circling and making a turn out of the right. Another reason we want to make a turn out of the right is because that's where, you know, the airport that we're going to be going towards is. So let me remove these waypoints here. There we go. And I'm going to add a waypoint, and that's EGAR, Rothera Station. There we go, and we'll go direct to Rothera. Okay, so it's 227 nautical miles to Rothera. You know, we can cruise once again at about flight level 180. That should be good enough. And Rothera is pretty much to the north of Fossil Bluff. So yeah, it's going to be nice. Hopefully we get some spectacular views of some of the scenery around here as well. Let me load up active sky once again so we can get real world weather back. And I'm going to set my panel here. Cabin pressurization to 18,000. That's already preset from the last leg. That's good. Let me just check everything here, make sure everything is looking good. Okay, that's good. Let's do our before takeoff checks here. Or have our flight engineer do the before takeoff checks. So he's setting everything up. We've got fuel running off the main tanks there. That's all looking good. Okay, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to take off in that direction. Going to do a wet takeoff with water injection. So a wet takeoff in this airplane is where you inject water, like a water-alcohol mixture, into the cooling channels in the engine in order to reduce the risk of detonation at very, very high manifold pressure and RPM settings. So that's the goal of having water, alcohol being injected as a coolant into the engine for a wet takeoff. And that's something I don't think I've done on channel in the PMDG DC6 before, so that should be a ton of fun. So that allows you to take off in a lot shorter runway length, and as well to take off at a much higher power setting. So that's what we're going to do. Alright folks, I'm going to step away here for about 2 to 3 minutes. I'm going to give you some cinematic shots here, and I'll be right back. Refresh my cup of Kona coffee. I'll be right back for the next leg of our trip in just a couple of minutes. Alright, we'll see you back here. Alright folks, I'm back. Okay, just got my cup of Kona coffee refreshed. I'm ready to go for the next leg of our trip here. So Raptor was saying, reduce risk of detonation, always a good thing when you reduce the risk of the engine blowing up. So detonation, actually, Raptor, it's not necessarily what you think. It's a very specific technical term when it comes to aircraft engines and piston engines in particular. So detonation essentially refers to as opposed to having, you know, kind of the smooth sort of combustion that you want during, you know, the burning of fuel, detonation essentially refers to the fuel-air mixture actually sort of combusting explosively, sort of, so to speak. So it's a very specific technical term related to the operation of piston engines. It's not necessarily, you know, an actual explosion of the engine itself. I'm sure you knew that, though. But anyway, okay, we're good to go here. Let's go ahead and release the parking brakes. We'll stand on the brakes, and let's have the co-pilot set takeoff power here. Water injection.
On. 30 inches stabilize. 30 inches stabilize.
Okay, co-pilot's standing up the throttles there at 30 inches, watching for the engines to stabilize. I'm going to do the same.
30 inches stabilized. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps. Cowl flaps set.
Opening the cowl flaps there for the takeoff,
Full power.
and now is going full power. And for those of you who are watching the first leg of the trip, where we took off without water injection, you're probably going to notice that the manifold pressure is going to be much higher this time around. And those green lights coming on indicating water injection. So now full power is being set. This is a lot higher manifold
Full power set.
pressure setting than we had before. Okay, now we're rolling. And this takeoff roll should be a lot shorter because we have a much higher takeoff power setting. So you see we're already at 80 knots, so that's super quick. And you need that extra, you know, takeoff power because this is a super short runway. So there's 100 knots. We're going to rotate, and we're airborne. And we do have terrain considerations on departure, so I want to keep my climb rate here. At the same time, I want to be aware of the risk of the engine overheating.
Flaps up.
Okay, flaps up.
Veto power.
Veto power being set. We're going to accelerate to 150 knots. And actually, let's do a right turnout right now. Actually, you know what? I'm going to track straight ahead for now. It's so hard to see because of the weather. I probably should have gotten rid of the active sky weather here because I'm not even sure it's accurate, to be honest. I'm not even sure it's accurate to what's going on in the real world. But we'll track straight ahead because we had that hill off to the right side of the airplane earlier. Terrain ahead. Yep, there you go. Yeah, that hill is off to the right side of the airplane. I think we're okay for now. Okay, we're doing good. Climbing through 1,600 feet.
After takeoff checklist, please.
Okay, let's go ahead at this point and get the gyropilot on and get the autopilot on. We'll climb out at 150 knots. And let's go into nav mode on the gyropilot. So localizer mode, that'll track the GPS course. And yeah, we should be good. Okay, it looks like we're clear of those terrain alerts that we had earlier, although, holy cow, did you guys see that? the mountain is like right there. It's like right there. I'm hoping we break out of these clouds super soon, because it'd be nice to see some of the terrain around here. What I might do actually is just set custom weather, so we don't have to deal with you know, not being able to see some of the spectacular scenery around here, right? So I'm hoping we break out of the clouds in the next 2 to 3 minutes. If not, what I'm going to do is create a custom weather zone around us. Raptor was saying you've noticed that the Harrier has a water system that actually increases the thrust of the engine, is not meant for cooling. Interesting. Well, you know, those two things are not diametrically opposed, right? I mean, water injection on its own is not going to increase the thrust of the engine, right? All that lets you do is run the engine hotter. And so how it lets the engine run hotter is it cools the engine. Essentially, that's how it works. So the only thing that allows the thrust of the engine to increase is if you increase the fuel or the rate at which the fan or the turbine is spinning. You know, that's all that lets you increase the thrust of the engine, right? Water injection on its own is not going to do anything. Water injection is just going to help you increase the amount of heating the engine can be put under, because it allows you to cool the engine at higher thrusts, if that makes any sense, right? At least that's kind of, you know, my take on things, right? Okay, 150 knots, we're climbing out. We're not breaking out of the clouds anytime soon. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to set custom weather just so we can see the scenery and not be bored by by nothing to see around here. It was reported overcast clouds at 1,800 feet, but that's it. You know what? We're going to set custom weather. We're going to set custom weather. Give me a second here to do this. Okay, I'm going to set the METAR here. -5, -8, QNH 905, and we're going to set that for 230 nautical miles around that that area. Actually, let's do 250. Okay, custom weather is set. Hopefully that works. Clouds are still there, unfortunately. Raptor is saying you have no idea how the system works. All you do is flick a switch in the cockpit that is labeled H2O. There you go. That works, Raptor. Okay, the custom weather took, thankfully, so that worked out nicely. Okay, so now we're getting a glimpse of all the spectacular scenery around us. So this is a much more mountainous part of Antarctica, as you can tell. Very, very rocky and icy. As we head up to Rothera Station. So we got about 214 nautical miles to go to Rothera. Going to keep an eye on my pressurization system, make sure it's doing what it's supposed to. Yeah, that's looking good. So we're just going to climb up to flight level 180 like we did earlier, or 18,000 feet rather, like we did before. Alright. How's everybody in chat doing? I hope everybody's doing fantastic. If you're just joining us, hope you all had a fantastic holiday season so far. Hope you all had a great Christmas, and thanks for hanging out today. Hope you're all looking forward to a fantastic new year. You know I am. I know I can't wait for this absolutely horrific cluster of a year to be done and over with. And here's hoping that next year is a lot better than this one was. Alright. Wow, look at the mountains around here. These are some really tall mountains. And it's so hard to get a sense of scale, right? Because there are no houses, there are no trees, there's nothing. It's just barren, rocky, icy landscapes here. And so it's so hard to get a sense of scale. But we're at 8,900 feet here coming up on. And the mountains still appear to be a bit taller than us back there. So these are some really, really high mountains where we're at right now. Just gonna pitch the nose down here just a little bit. Make sure we're climbing out at 150 knots. There we go. And yeah, we've got another 209 nautical miles to go to Rothera Station. Once we get our cruising altitude, you know, then we can pick up some speed and really start going here. But typical climb airspeed in this airplane is 150 knots. That's normal. Okay, let's check on our fuel gauges here. This is all doing what it's supposed to. That's great. And Matthew 4, how's it going, Matthew? Matthew, I think we caught you just on the tail end of our stream last night. So unfortunately, we couldn't catch up like we would have been able to normally. But it's good to see you, Matthew. I hope you're doing well down in Chile. Hope you had a fantastic Christmas. And hope you're doing well. Thanks for hanging out today. Matthew, I remember you saying something about the Concorde. The Concorde yesterday. Did you get the Kolyamata Concorde? Is that the story? If so, how are you liking it? I remember there was something about landing at Saint Martin or something, if I remember correctly. Just checking on the pressurization system here. It is doing what it's supposed to. Cabin is being pressurized. Although it kind of weirds me out how it waits until the cabin pressure differential gets super uncomfortably close there to red line before it actually starts raising the cabin pressure to account for our rapidly increasing altitude here. so this airplane is finding a way to make me nervous. One of the cool things about PMDG, by the way, is they've actually modeled the effects of hypoxia, you know, within the limitations of a flight simulator, obviously. But the screen will start going blank. It will start going dark gradually if you don't set your pressurization system properly, and you go above, you know, 12,500 and higher altitudes, you know, where the effects of hypoxia are real. PMDG has actually modeled this super cool effect where the screen will gradually, very, very slowly start going dark. and it will do it just the way your eyes would in real life if you were experiencing hypoxia. You know, you get this vignette effect, right, where the outside starts becoming dark first, and then it starts closing in on you, and it becomes dark in the center later on. And one of the super cool things about that effect is once it starts, you can't stop it. Just, you know, because in addition to, you know, sort of the blurring and loss of vision in hypoxia, you also have a whole bunch of other you know, ill effects that affect your judgment, you know, your consciousness, your ability to kind of perceive and react to things as quickly as you need to. And so it's super cool that's actually modeled. That's the reason, in case you're wondering, I'm so nervous about monitoring the pressurization system and making sure that it's doing what it's supposed to be doing. Okay, let me catch up on chat here. Matthew says, no, the FS Labs Concorde. Awesome, Matthew. Well, I'm glad you're liking that. You installed P3D version 3 just for that. That's great. You know, I got to tell you, I cannot wait until FS Labs releases their Concorde for version 4 and version 5. I'm not sure, actually, if it's going to be available for version 4, but I know it's definitely going to be available for version 5. So that's going to be super cool when that comes out. The one preview screenshot that they released of it had my mouth watering. I was so pumped and excited when I saw that. I was like, holy cow, it's going to be amazing when that comes out, isn't it? Matthew says you also have the Kolimata. Yeah, totally. The FS Labs is way, way better. Kolimata's Concorde, honestly, compared to the FS Labs, it's a bit of a joke, you know. The Kolimata Concorde, compared to the systems depth of the FS Labs, is way, way underwhelming, you know. FS Labs is the creme de la creme of Concorde add-ons, for sure. It's really, really good. Okay, as we come up on our critical altitude here, I'm going to get the supercharger on. So I'm going to wait for about 14,000 feet there, and then we're going to turn the superchargers and blowers to the high setting. So yeah, let's go back to some cinematic shots for now as we climb out over the ice here. Wow, this looks beautiful. Loving the mountain peaks that peek out above this ice sheet here. This looks great. You flew from Heathrow down to St. Martin, says Matthew. That's awesome, Matthew. Yeah, they're releasing it in 2021, you say. That's amazing. I actually did not know that. I did not see a timeline from Kolimata for that, or not Kolimata. I didn't see a timeline from FS Labs for that. But if that is the case, that is fantastic. I'm really looking forward to it. Okay, pretty much at our critical altitude here, through 14,000. You know, typically you also have a bunch of other signs, right? You'll see that, actually, you're seeing it right now. So you notice how our manifold pressure is dropped below 40 inches. As long as there's enough power available, the flight engineer is always going to try and maintain 40 inches in the climb. So if you drop below that, that means there's just not enough power at the low blower setting. So you got to set the blowers to high. So let's go ahead and do that right now. So blowers to high. And immediately you're going to see a big jump in power as those superchargers kick in. And now what the flight engineer is doing in order to prevent this excess power from the superchargers, he's now bringing the throttles back in order to keep the manifold pressure at 40 inches in the climb. And our climb rate has gone up again, so now we're shooting back up. So we're climbing through 15,300, we're going to level off at 18,000, and we're going to maintain 18,000 feet in cruise. So that is our plan. All right. Let's go back to some cinematic shots here. Wow, look at that. That looks spectacular down there. Looks like a glacier down there too, doesn't it? That looks a lot like a glacier to me down there, right next to that, you know, those mountains down there. All right, let's catch up on chat here. Yeah, also FS Labs Sharklets coming in Q1 2021. You know, the FS Labs Sharklets have been coming since forever, right? When are they finally going to be here? That's my question. When are the FS Labs Sharklets finally going to be here? Because it's been a while. You know, we've been talking about this stuff forever. you know, PMDG is notorious for, you know, super long sort of periods of buildup of hype before things finally come on the market. And one very sort of like notorious, you know, an infamous example of this is the Global Operations Center, which has been spoken about forever, you know, and it still has not been released. But you know, I would venture that FS Labs has PMDG beat when it comes to time between we're thinking about doing this or we've got this in the works to when it actually hits the market. It takes a while for them. Yeah, totally, Matthew. It's I love it as well. By the way, what is the music volume like for you? Is it too loud, too low? Just let me know, because I have a very hard time kind of judging the levels through my headset. What I hear is very different from what the streaming setup is sending to the interwebs and the inner tubes. It blends perfectly. That's great. I turned it up just a couple of notches there. Okay. Let's see how we're doing. Okay, we're coming up on 18,000 here, so I want to level off at 18,000. Let's go ahead and start leveling off. Okay, coming up on 18,000. There's 18,000 right there. Okay, altitude control on, and the airplane's autopilot is now leveling us off at 18,000 feet. That is awesome. Okay, now we're leveled off at 18,000. And pressurization system is doing what it's supposed to, although again, it's making me super nervous with that super high cabin differential pressure there. But it's working. It's doing what it's supposed to, so that's great. That's fantastic. What I'm going to do is I'm going to let the airplane accelerate here to about 210 knots, and then I'm going to ask the flight engineer to set cruise power. But in the meantime, what I'm going to do is go ahead and switch to my alternate tanks. So we talked about fuel management of this airplane before, right? As I mentioned, during the takeoff and climb, you're running fuel off the main tanks, and during the cruise, you're running fuel off the alternate tanks. So I'm going to switch to the alternate tanks right now, and make sure we have good fuel pressure. Yep, looking good. And yeah, we're running fuel off the alternates now for the rest of the cruise and through a good portion of the descent and approach as well. So that's all looking good. And you're seeing the speed build up there. I'm going to wait until the speed builds up to past 210 knots, and then I'm going to go ahead and what do you call it? Past 210 knots, and I'm going to go ahead and go and have the flight engineer set cruise power. So that's going to be the plan. Matthew was saying blends perfectly. That's awesome, Matthew. And Matthew, no, I do not. I don't, you know, besides the YouTube channel, honestly, I don't have a whole lot. So, you know, you have your own channel though, right, Matthew? You're, you know, what I would suggest is, you know, there's the post feature on your channel. You can post a like picture if you'd like to on there. And if it's a really good one, you can also share it on Reddit or something, right? So that's another option. If you're asking if I've got, you know, I do have a Discord account. You know, Matthew, why don't you send me your, you have a Discord name? You can send me your Discord name and number, and I can add you as a friend on Discord. That way you can send it through me through Discord. That's another option. Okay, one thing I want to do here as we build up speed is, I want to aim to be at Rothera, let's say, again, 1500. There we go. Save, and let's go to VNAV. And target descent rate of 500 feet per minute, as always. And look at that. It's amazing, and just how you know, how much distance this airplane needs to descend and slow down, because you want to keep the engine power high. So we just reached our cruise, and we already want to start our descent in about 5 minutes. So that's coming up in a hurry. That's coming up super fast here. Okay, so we're past 210 knots here. Let's go ahead and set cruise power. So co-pilot's going to set cruise power. There we go. And yeah, we're doing good otherwise. Everything's looking good. Awesome, Matthew. I'll send you something on Discord if I can right now, actually. Or I'll add you rather on Discord right now. Okay, cruise power is set. Let's go and get the engine sounds down, and we'll go back into some fantastic cinematic shots here. And let me do this thing real quick. Friends, how do I add someone? Add friend. Okay, there you go. All right. Natalie 2004 hashtag, or not hashtag, but number 7715. Let me make sure I got that correctly. 1 second. 2004. By the way, Matthew, how's flying going for you down in Chile? Are you still flying the PC-6? Okay, there you go. So we're connected there. All right, awesome. So yeah, you can send me that pic through here. By the way, just to let you know, Matthew, I don't monitor this a whole lot. You know, it's just something I use super rarely. And just occasionally keep in touch with flight sim folks. Salute, how's it going? Hope you're doing well. Salute, I do not. I don't have a community Discord. It's just something I haven't had the time to set up, you know, and honestly, if I had the time to set it up, the problem is I just don't have the time to monitor it and moderate it and all that jazz. So I already have my hands full with my YouTube channel, and lately, if you notice, I've been super lax on even getting my typical sort of like edited videos out that I normally like creating. So I barely have time to do the edited content that I used to do a lot of in the past. So I used to say I don't have time for Discord in the past. I definitely do not have time for a community Discord now. I barely have time to kind of do live streams and make edited content these days. Just too much going on. Salute, that doesn't necessarily work out. You know, it sounds good in theory. It doesn't actually work that way in practice. Take it from someone who knows something about setting up a channel and dealing with the growth of a channel and things like that. You think it would work that way in practice, or you think it would work that way in theory. But in practice, it's a lot more complicated. So my goal with flight simming and streaming and my YouTube channel, by the way, is just to have fun. And if other people enjoy the content and other people get something out of it, that is a fantastic bonus, to be honest. But my primary goal is to kind of entertain myself and do something that I enjoy doing. And if other people enjoy it as well, that's great. But I don't want to kind of get into, a lot of the administrative, kind of not as fun aspects of this, unless I'm fully, in the mindset and have the patience to go into it with both feet planted, so to speak. Yeah, I'll check it out there for sure there, Matthew. Okay, so there it is. Oh, wow. Is that the Milky Way there? What is that? Oh, that's from MSFS. That's the Milky Way. Yeah, that's one of the nice things about MSFS, right? Is the stars are, the night sky is modeled incredibly beautifully. Actually, Matthew, I don't know if you watched the VOD of my stream from last night, but we were talking a lot about the night sky in MSFS because we had a full moon last night. And it was actually like a harvest moon, I believe. And my God, it just looked absolutely stunning. So we were talking about just how well the night sky is modeled in MSFS last night. One of the things I was mentioning in the past is I can't wait until we get like somebody to do a bubble sextant gauge in MSFS so that we can recreate some old, China Clipper or other, oceanic routes where the only way of navigating was using the stars. So that's, can you imagine stellar navigation in MSFS? It looks pretty accurate to me. It looks like everything is in the right place. So that is going to be spectacular if that's something you could do in MSFS. Okay, let's see how we're doing in terms of our top of descent here. I think we're coming up on it. Okay, we got about a minute and 40 seconds to go to our top of descent, so we're going to start our descent here in a hurry. Let's check on our fuel gauges. Okay, we're doing great. Continuing to burn fuel off the alternate tanks. We're just gonna keep doing that because we got way more fuel in the alternate tanks than we do in the main tanks. I should have reloaded and rebalanced the fuel loading in the tanks before the second leg, but I just completely skipped my mind to do it. But anyway, it's okay what we have right now. You know, we can deal with this. It's not ideal, but it's okay. Okay, got another 1 minute to go to top of descent. Wow, look at those shots there, man. Just spectacular scenery here at the bottom of the world. Matthew says, yep, you were amazed. MSFS graphics are just amazing, and they say that the stars are placed accurately. Indeed they are, Matthew. Matthew, have you tried any of the freeware mods for some of the default aircraft? Like the working title CJ4 or the Bush League Legends X-Cub? Because those mods, you know, really add a level of depth to, you know, some of the somewhat lacking default aircraft. Like the CJ4 used to be basically unflyable, you know, in MSFS, but then the working title mod makes it actually, like, you know, a really, you know, detailed airplane. It makes it a lot of fun to fly. Like, we were flying it last night and I really enjoyed it. You know, it was, you could do some really serious hardcore, you know, IFR flying, involving some super complicated routings, you know, and we did a lot of raw data navigation yesterday for some tech flying in SoCal, and it's really amazing just how much of that you can do with some of these freeware mods. Matthew says you can't fly. Yeah, totally. You can't fly in without the mods for sure. It really makes a world of difference. Okay, we're at our top of descent. Let's go ahead and start our descent. Sound's coming back on, and let's go ahead and start the descent. So altitude control off, and let's move the pitch wheel down. And yeah, we're starting our descent here for Rothera Station. Going to descend at about 500 feet per minute here, and let's go ahead and have the co-pilot run our descent flows.
Setting 26 inches.
And actually, there's something I forgot to do, which is I forgot to update my stream title here. So let me do that real quick, because obviously the second leg here is no longer a return, right? We're doing.
Seatbelt signs on.
We're doing a totally different leg here. So this is going to be Fossil Bluff.
Descent checks are complete.
Fossil Bluff to 1 second here. Okay, we're descending. I'm gonna shallow my descent here just a little bit though. You know, 500 feet per minute should be good enough. There we go. Where is this? 1 second. There we go. I was trying to find the little arrow there, the airplane-shaped arrow, so I can update the stream title. Okay, Fossil Bluff to Rothera, and McMurdo to Terra Nova. There we go. Rothera. Okay, just updating the oh boy, I hate spell checks. Spell check keeps wanting to change Rothera to rather. I don't know why. Okay. EGAR. Alright. Yeah, I totally forgot my stream title needed to be updated. 1 second. Changing the description as well. Okay, there we go. Stream title hopefully should be updated by now. Okay, we're descending through 17,600 feet. Let's make sure the pressurization system is doing what it's supposed to. Indeed it is. Okay, that's looking good. And we're still running fuel off the alternate tanks. Yeah, that's good. All right, we're doing great. Okay, we're doing great. We got to talk about the airport we're flying into, by the way. So I'll go back into some cinematic shots here. I'll try to pull up a map of the field that we're flying into if I can find it. I think there's a little airport chart available from the Aerosoft documentation for Antarctica X. So give me a second to find that and pull that up. There we go. There's the manual. Let's open that up with Chrome. Okay, there we go. Okay, let's see if I can find the charts. Yeah, there we go. Okay, where's Rothera station here? It's on here somewhere, I think. That's it, there's Rothera station. Okay, let me go ahead and pull up my Chrome window on screen, and we can talk through this here in just a little bit. Okay. Let's pull up my Chrome window here on screen. Hopefully y'all can see it. So this is Rothera base that we're going to, right? It's a really short gravel runway. It's just 870 meters long. So, you know, that's about 2,000, you know, something feet, I'm guessing, right? It's a pretty short runway. Actually, it might be a bit more than that. Maybe about 3,000 feet. But anyway, the point is, you know, super short runway. It's gravel, and the winds are calm, but we're probably going to land to the north today. So we're probably going to go straight in. We might overfly the field and kind of check out the windsock, see if it's doing anything, and just kind of check out the situation on the runway, and eventually we'll circle into land on 3-6. So that's going to be our plan. And of course, you know, you can't see it here, but it's sort of, you can sort of make it out. There's a glacier just off the, you know, the to the west side of the field. And there's also terrain all around the field that we got to be on the lookout for. But you know, I do have custom weather set. It's clear skies more or less, so hopefully we should have some you know, good views of everything around us, and not have to worry about, you know, scud running, going in and out of clouds, etc. So yeah, that's basically it. This is a towered field in real life. The tower frequency is 118.1. Obviously, that's not that's not available in flight sim. I'm not sure if there's even like a VATSIM sort of controlling body, right, for the Antarctica area. Maybe New Zealand, you know, Christchurch Control has some controlling authority in VATSIM for Antarctica, but I've never seen that ever. I'm not sure if maybe they have some special events every once in a while where they do that, but I've never seen that. Okay, just checking on the fuel tanks there. That's looking good. And yeah, we're continuing to descend, more or less on profile, just about 90 feet high, but that's fine. Yeah, we're doing good. All right, let me catch up on chat here. Matthew was saying you're excited for the FS Labs Concorde, the Just Flight 747 Classic, and mainly those two. Yeah, well, those are good ones to be excited about for sure. You know, it seems like you're a man after my own heart there, Matthew. You seem to have a preference for some of these old classic steam gauge airplanes there, and I'm a big fan of those myself, actually. I love those types of airplanes. I haven't heard the best things, though, to be honest, about Just Flight. Like, if you look at their you know, the Avro, or the BAE 146 that they most recently released, there were a lot of problems with that. You know, I never got it, but everything I saw suggested to me that it's just, there were so many issues with it, you know, and Just Flight doesn't have the best reputation when it comes to like study level airliners, you know, and considering the amount of money they were charging for the BAE, you know, it's shocking just how many things were not working properly out of the box. Like for instance, you know, you couldn't even operate the two FMCs independently in a study level add-on that they wanted to charge $90 or something for. You know, I think it was a lot of money they wanted to charge for it. So yeah, I'm super looking forward to the FS Lab stuff. Just Flight, I'm not sure. It depends on what people say about it. But wow, look at the scenery here. I mean, this is spectacular. Just off the right side of the airplane here, Look at that. Look at that. There's a glacier down there, right? That's definitely a glacier down there. Yeah, look at that. That's spectacular. It's just amazing, like, all of this is modeled, right, in the scenery. Wow, what a spectacular place. And there's where you see the sea ice starting to break up there. And as we venture further offshore, that just looks stunning. Sorry, Matthew, I didn't mean to worry you. I mean, you know, I obviously, past is not always prologue, but more often than not it is. So I didn't mean to alarm you, but you know, Just Flight is one of those companies that I kind of see a bit like, you know, they're not exactly like Captain Sim, but I worry that Captain Sim has set this sort of precedent for certain developers where they charge PMDG level prices, providing far inferior quality products. You know what I mean? And I feel like Just Flight with the BAE sort of jumped on that bandwagon. You know, where they charge super high prices and make people think, okay, for that price it's got to be really good. But then you actually go into the airplane and you find out ridiculous things like that the FMCs don't work independently of one another. You know, and that's not PMDG level quality for sure. So you shouldn't be charging PMDG prices. And sometimes, you know, they'll justify it by saying, well, nobody else is making this airplane, so we can charge that price. And it's like, okay, technically somebody else is making that airplane, and that's Quality Wings. And Quality Wings was only charging $15 for the same thing. And in Quality Wings, I'm pretty sure you can control the FMCs independently. So for $15, right? So yeah, not trying to alarm you, but at the same time, you know, I don't have the best opinion of them. Let's see, what else did I miss? And the TFDI MD-11, yeah, that should be interesting. You know, TFDI, they had a lot of teething problems with the 717, but the good thing is they fixed it over time, right? The one bug that just always bothered me was the crash the desktop issue when you switch views with the 717. But thankfully, they eventually, after years, they eventually fixed it. so at least that was fixed. But yeah, the MD-11 should be nice to have. Boy, I gotta tell you, I really miss flying my my PMDG MD-11. That was a fantastic add-on. I really miss flying that. Let's see. Matthew, oh yeah, sorry, Matthew, I totally missed this about the reversers. I saw the comment, I was about to respond to it, and then I got sidetracked ranting about the quality of certain developers' products. Let me get back to what I'm supposed to be doing here, which is streaming and talking about my stream. So yes, the DC-6 does have reversers, and they're very, very powerful reversers. So depending on how much field length I have left, I'm probably going to have to engage the reversers, yes. And I think the way I do it, so in this sim, the way you do it is by operating the water rudder handle, you know, or whatever key you have, whatever keystroke assignment you have for the water rudder in P3D, that is what you use to activate the reversers, and then you can actually control the amount of thrust from the reversers using your throttle handle, just like you normally would. So yeah. You know, this actually reminds me, I probably want to make sure I know what the correct key assignment is. So give me 1 second here. I'm gonna figure this out, okay? Let me create a save point here real quick. Give me 1 second. I wanted to make sure that I know what my key assignment is, okay? Because I don't want to screw this up. I'm glad you reminded me. Water rudder. Control plus W. I don't have an assignment for... You know what? That's fine. I can just... Yeah, that's fine. Okay. Yeah, I mean, I think I have a key mapped. Or not a key, but I think I have a joystick button mapped. If that doesn't work, I can just do Control W, and hopefully that'll work. Yeah, I've had the X52 since forever, actually. I probably should upgrade to honeycomb yoke or just some kind of yoke for the airplanes that have yokes. But my problem is, you know, I don't flight sim as much these days as I used to. You know, I just don't have the time for it as much. And when I flight sim, you know, I usually feel like, hey, it'd be nice to catch up with folks who tune in my streams. So when I flight sim, I usually just hop online and start streaming too at the same time. So I barely, you know, flight sim these days, and I'm just like, you know, is it really worth it investing $250 in honeycomb yoke if I'm barely going to use it, right? You know, not to mention, God only knows how long the wait times still are to get one of those shipped to you, or even ordered for that matter. You know, who knows how many they have on backlog, right? Okay, let's see how we're doing. We're pretty much on profile, just slightly below vertical track, but that's fine. We got another, let's see how long we have left to go to Rothera. We've got 85 miles to go to Rothera. Let's see if there's any VORs or NDBs here. No VORs, but there's got to be an NDB, right? No NDBs either. So there's no nav aids here. This is just all GPS. That's fine. In real life, by the way, how many of those of you that are in chat know what kind of airplane flies into Rothera IRL? I'll give you a hint. It's airplanes made by a Canadian manufacturer. One of the types is 4 engines, and the other type is 2 engines. Anybody want to venture a guess as to which 2 aircraft types fly into Rothera primarily? Let's see. Toxic, how's it going? Toxic was asking, can somebody help with Isobo 787? I'm not sure, Toxic. I barely fly that airplane. So I wouldn't know, Toxic. I haven't touched the 787, the default one in MSFS since it first came out. So I would not be the person to ask that question to. You know, it's usually not exactly the best bet when you're jumping into a stream to ask people about something that has nothing to do with the stream, because it's rare you can find somebody to help you. You might be better off, you know, seeking out the MSFS forums or Reddit or something like that. That might be a much better venue to get kind of a super sort of esoteric, you know, question like that answered, because I'm not sure I can help you. I'm not sure who can help you in the stream. Not many of my viewers are big fans of the default airplanes in MSFS, so I don't know who can help you here. Matthew 4 says the C-130 and the Basler. I don't know about those two, but Alex Mags, first of all, how's it going, Alex? Alex Mags is correct. The Dash 7 is one of the aircraft. The other aircraft type is the DHC-6, the Turbine Otter. Or sorry, the Twin Otter. The Twin Otter, not the Turbine Otter. The Twin Otter and the Dash 7. So the Dash 7 is like a 4-engine, you know, turboprop from de Havilland, Canada. And the DHC-6, obviously, that's the venerable Twin Otter that they fly around here a lot. So as far as I know, those are the 2 aircraft types that fly into Rothera. Okay, we're descending through 10,000 feet here. About 75 miles to go to Rothera. Let's check on our cabin pressurization system. It's doing what it's supposed to. That's good. And we're below 10,000, so we've pretty much minimized our risk of hypoxia. So I can breathe. I can breathe a lot more comfortably now. Get it? Get it? Because hypoxia, breathing. You know what? Never mind. Never mind. It's that time of the day when we indulge in far too much dad humor. But yeah, the Dash 7 and the DHC-6, as far as I know, are the 2 types. Those are the 2 types. All right. What do I want to do here? I wanted to put in... Matthew says, yep, you're right. Awesome, Matthew. I'm glad to hear that. Oftentimes, you know, I'm just kind of going off of memory, not of anything I've read recently. So you never know when your information is either hopefully, you never know when your information is either hopelessly out of date or just completely made up in your own head, right? You never know. You never know if you just got it completely wrong. So I'm glad to hear I got that. I got that right. All right, let's see. What's the outro there? Broke for free at end. Okay. Sorry, I'm already working on my credits here for the end of the stream. Totally forgot I had to do that. So lately in my streams, I've been having sort of a credits at the end of the stream, just so that it's there in the stream, you know, kind of showing showing all the sceneries that were used, the airplanes, add-ons, etc. Right? So there you go. Let's see. And I want to put in my charts buy thing as well. So give me a second here to do that. How many people do we have in chat who are here from the start, out of curiosity? I'm not sure we have many left. But those of you that joined us midway, thanks for hanging out. Hope you're all doing awesome. Hope you're having a fantastic holiday season. Hope you had an awesome Christmas. And I hope you're all looking forward to a fantastic new year. Alright, let's try to put up... Oh, there we go. There's that document that I was looking for. Okay, there we go. Alright, that's looking good. Okay, let's check in on things. We're descending through 8,500 feet there. Got about 62 miles to go to Rothera station. Pressurization is looking good. Fuel is looking good. Awesome. What is the ETA? We're probably about 20 minutes out here. You know, 20 minutes from touchdown is my guess there, Matthew. But let's check actually real quick. I wanted to go to flight plan, and here we go. So 0926 local is when we'll arrive. So that is... Yeah, here we go. Time en route from here to the airport is 16 minutes 28 seconds. So 16 and a half minutes is when we'll touch down. Or actually 16 and a half minutes is when we're going to arrive over the airport. We're going to do a circle just to check the windsock, check the conditions. I've never actually landed the DC... Now that I think about it, I've never actually landed at this airport before. So I've seen this, you know, just to check it out. You know, I've done the drone camera around it just to check out all the beautiful sights in the scenery, but I've never actually landed here. So yeah, we'll see. That's why I wanted to do a circle, you know, just to make sure I just know the layout, you know, the lay of the land, so to speak, before I actually go for the landing. And actually, let me see if there should be information in here about Rothera, right? Waypoint info. There we go. Runways. Here we go. So awesome. So in the GTN 650 unit, we've got the runway length. It's actually a pretty decently long runway. You know, it's not as short as I was initially concerned it was. It's pretty long. You know, 2875 feet is good enough. You know, you can easily get this airplane stopped in that distance, even without reversers. We'll do reversers anyway, just for laughs, you know, because it's fun to use. And it's a pretty wide runway. It's actually 131 feet wide. Wow, it's got full-time lighting. Interesting. I did not know that. Let's see. Any procedures? There's a visual 1.8, a visual 3.6. We're probably going to do the visual 3.6, right? Oh, wow. It's got fuel available. Jet A. How about that? Jet fuel is available. Time zone UTC -3. There's the lat and long. Preview. That's what it looks like, right? It's at the southern tip of this this little peninsula here. That's where the Rothera station is. Weather data. Oops, hold on. I don't think this is available. No, it's not. Obviously, that's not modeled or available. NOTAMs, didn't expect that either. Frequencies, let's take a look. No frequencies either. Although we do know, right, from looking at this earlier, that the tower frequency is 118.1. Okay, got 52 miles to go. I better nail the landing, says Matthew 4. Why should I better nail the landing there, Matthew? Don't threaten me with a good time. Don't threaten me with a good time, right? We'll see how the landing goes. One way or another, it's going to be nailed. Either we're going to nail it with a super high landing rate and collapse the landing gear, or we're going to make it buttery smooth and we're going to nail the airplane into the water at the other end of the runway once we run off the runway because we touched down too smoothly and didn't get the airplane stopped in time. So one way or another, we're going to nail something here. One way or another, we're gonna be down on the ground. Okay. Wow, and there's some of those fantastic little icebergs that are modeled in the scenery. Once again, look at that. You know, there are all kinds of different variations and shapes too, right? I mean, obviously there's a little bit of repetitiveness between those two icebergs on either side of the relatively flat one, right? Obviously those are mirror models of each other, but I do like kind of the variety, you know, because we've seen a few different shapes in this scenery. We've seen some flat ones, we've seen some sort of like, sombrero-shaped ones, and then some, little sort of like, mound-shaped ones like these here. There you go, Matthew. I would prefer that as well. I wonder why. Great minds think alike. I would prefer a safer landing as well. Can you imagine if all 4 of your engines quit right here? You know, there's not many places to go. Like, the best you can hope for is like touchdown within vicinity of one of these ice floes that you can hop on, right? Or, yeah, well, you're going to have life rafts on board, obviously, if you're flying in this part of the world. So you want to touch down as softly as possible. Get the life rafts out, hopefully, before the airplane starts to sink, and wait for rescue, I suppose. Dreamland Nightmare 2, how's it going there, Dreamland? I haven't seen your name in a while. Absolutely, Dreamland. I hope you had a fantastic Christmas. Hope your holidays have been going great so far. And yeah, I wish you a happy new year as well. Thanks for stopping by, and thanks for the kind and friendly words there, Dreamland. Hope you're doing great, my friend. Dreamland, we are shuttling between Fossil Bluff Skiway and Rothera Station on the continent of Antarctica. So we did a flight earlier from McMurdo Station to Terra Nova Bay to visit an Italian research station in Antarctica, and now we're off to United Kingdom's base of operations here in Antarctica, which is Rothera Station. And we're just a few short miles away from landing gear, just a few short minutes away, about 40.6 nautical miles, and probably under 15 minutes at this point. So we're coming up on Rothera Station in a hurry. Let's see how we're doing in terms of our VNAV track here. Yeah, we're below profile, so that's fine. You know, we'll level off at like 2,000 feet, just like we did before at on approach into Terra Nova. All right, let's get some scenic cinematic shots here. Wow, look at this. I'm digging it. You know, one of the things about this place, right, is it's so isolated, right? You know, when you're out here, you know just how few people there are around you. And there's a little bit of an attractiveness to that. You know, there's a real beauty to that, right? Like, you know how so many people from the, well, not that many, but, you know, every once in a while, you have people from the lower 48, right? And just kind of grow dissatisfied with their regular, you know, lives, right? Your typical 9-to-5 office job or whatever. And they just decide, you know, one day to pack it up and head for the wilds of Alaska. And there's something about kind of the, you know, being so far, you know, out in the woods, right? Being so far away from civilization and, you know, the nearest sort of Whole Foods or, you know, Dunkin' Donuts or whatever, right? There's something to be said for that kind of lifestyle. Let's see. Dreamland says, yeah, work has kept you on a ball and chain. You had a good holiday, had to work Christmas. Holy cow, that sucks. but you got out early and it was made up for by a TUI Airlines crew ordering all of you food. That's awesome there, Dreamland. But it kind of sucks you to work for Christmas, though. Dreamland is asking, how do I like flying props over jets? Kind of like getting some stick and rudder time in old iron. Absolutely, I definitely do. You know, so IRL, you know, I don't fly jets IRL. You know, I fly small single-engine props and gliders IRL for the most part. So this is my kind of flying, you know. I've barely had any sort of like radial time IRL, though. I've just had a half hour in a Stearman, which was the only airplane I've flown IRL that had a radial engine. But I love radials. I love the sound of radials. And for me personally, this is my kind of flying. I just love it. You know, I don't do this sort of flying enough on stream because it's just not as popular, I guess, you know. People would rather see, you know, the heavy jets, right? Like the 747s or the super sophisticated, you know, Airbuses or whatever. But I'm going to tell you, I personally prefer doing this kind of flying when I can get the time. And it's nice to hang out with people that get it, you know. There is something special about old airplanes like this. And there's something special about steam gauge cockpits, right? I just think it keeps you more engaged with the airplane, you know? Like, you actually have to take the time to really understand and interpret what's going on with the airplane. The airplane isn't just figuring out everything that's going on with it and telling you, right? In plain English, like with the ECAM on the Airbus. In this thing, if something goes wrong, you actually have to work your mind a little bit and try to understand what's going wrong and how to fix it, right? And even just like regular routine activities like flying an ILS approach, you know, any kind of approach, VOR approach, NDB approach, whatever it is, you actually have to think about it, you know, and plan ahead and monitor the situation and make sure everything is going as you planned it. So I really like this kind of flying. Steam gauges, pretty old school. We're only using the GPS tonight, by the way, because obviously we're in Antarctica and nav aids are few and far between. So we took advantage of a couple of nav aids that we had available to us on the first leg of our trip, and this leg we have 0 nav aids. So unfortunately, we're just completely reliant on the GPS to get to Rothera tonight. So there you go. Dreamland was saying you can't complain about Christmas and Christmas Eve. You got paid 4 times the regular rate for both days. Well, there you go, Dreamland. So as long as they made it up to you, right? That's and as long as you're happy with the way they made it up to you, that's what matters in the end, right? So that's great. Dreamland says you love radials too. There's a guy who flies a Beech 18 out of Pontiac, Michigan. That sounds so nice in takeoff, even has a candy flake metallic red paint job. Holy cow, that sounds pretty good. Yeah, I've never flown at a Beech 18. I've only seen a couple of them at Oshkosh in prior years, but that is a beautiful airplane for sure. That's an amazing airplane. How many can a Beech 18 seat? Can it seat 6 people or is it 4 people? I think it's 6 people, right? If I'm not mistaken. Or maybe it's even more, you know. But if I remember correctly, I thought the Beech 18 had like, you know, kind of like those Bonanza style seats, right? They face inward in the back. But correct me if I'm wrong. But that does sound like a pretty beautiful airplane for sure. Okay, let's get the engine sounds back on here as we descend through 3,200 feet. I'm going to level off at 2,000 feet until we get to Rothera there. Actually, you know what? Let's level off at 3,000. We still got about 20 miles left here. So we'll level off at 3,000. And we'll run our in-range checks at this point.
Normal. Fuel booster pumps.
Just once again doing this kind of weird, sort of really weird, I'm sure, for the audience view, because I'm monitoring the altimeter and I'm trying to control the autopilot at the same time. And you know, I wish, like, you know, the Cool Sky DC-9, which you've flown on channel before, has a little pop-up box you can use to control the autopilot. Because in the DC-9, the autopilot is also kind of down here in the center pedestal. But you have a little pop-up box so that you can look ahead while controlling the autopilot. I don't have that pop-up box in the PMDG DC6, unfortunately. So I got to keep looking down in order to be able to control the autopilot functions. Which kind of sucks. Let's see. Dreamland was saying, same, you love the complexity of flying old iron, actually having to do some mental math and planning for the flight. There you go. Yeah, exactly. I love the way you put it too. That's couldn't have put it better myself. There you go. That's exactly right. And Dreamland says the Beach 18 should be 6, depending if you have someone sitting in the aft lab. Got it. Okay. Yeah, very interesting. Dreamland, is Michigan home in that case for you? How's the weather in Michigan? It's been kind of an interesting winter, I know, in the eastern part of the U.S. with a lot of early season snowstorms blowing through. Just kind of curious if you are out of Michigan, how things have been weather-wise. Matthew4 says Aerosoft postpones the CRJ release to Q1. Yeah, you know, I guess I'm not necessarily surprised. You know, they did give people a lot of hope that they would be releasing it around the holidays, but you know, I guess I can't say I'm too surprised that that's what ended up happening. You know, that they ended up having to delay it like that. Okay, about 13 miles out here, just letting the aircraft gradually slow down. And look at this. This is some pretty interesting terrain around Rothera base here. So you can imagine if the weather's a little iffy, this is probably not the best place to fly into. There's no like instrument approaches, at least as far as I know, right, for this place. Dreamland says you still want a solid payware Dornier 328. You would love to do some challenging hand-flown approaches with your favorite turbo. Yeah, totally. Dreamland, do you happen to have the Majestic Q400? Because that is a fantastic turboprop for P3D. I don't know much about the Dornier 328, but you know, I like flying turboprops every once in a while. You know, I can't wait until the Majestic Q400 comes out for MSFS. The one thing I'm really looking forward to is I know that since forever, basically, Majestic Software House has been talking about, or is it Majestic? No, it's not Majestic Software House, just Majestic Software. Don't want to confuse that with Leonardo Software House, right? But Majestic, you know, they've been talking forever about bringing a Q300 to the market, and that would be super exciting, you know, because a Q300 I think is like old school, right? It's steam gauges and no fly-by-wire, right? It's all mechanical linkages to the control system. So that would be a fun thing to finally get in flight sim, a Q300 from Majestic, given how amazing of a job they did with the Q400. And actually, wait a second, is it the Q300 or is it just the -83? Not sure. What do you know? I know the Q in Q400 stands for quiet, and that's because they have this sort of active noise suppression system in the cabin. I'm not sure if the -300 or whatever it's called has the same sort of noise suppression system. So is it called the Q300 or is it something else? I forgot the designation for the earlier variants of the -8s. I'm not sure. Matthew4 says he flew it for a few years. The Dornier 328 is an amazing turboprop. Well, there you go. Yeah, because you know, you've got some IRL experience with these airplanes, right? Okay, so we've got Rothera Station up ahead. Just gonna hop over the glare shield here. There's Rothera Station right there. So what I'm gonna do at this point is take over the throttle control manually. That way it can start slowing down, and I'm going to start turning things off on the autopilot here. So altitude control off, autopilot handle to disconnect, gyro pilot off, and now I've got full manual control. And I want to start slowing down, and we'll do a circle over the field there. Whoops, we'll do a circle over the field, get the lay of the land, and actually below 175 knots there, let's get the gear down. I'm a little high still, but or a little fast still, but that's fine. Okay, now we're below 175. So flaps 10, I can go all the way down to flaps 20, and that'll really help me slow down. And that way I can lose altitude, slow down. I want to make sure I'm keeping the torque gauges indicating positive there to make sure we don't ruin the gear mechanism in the engine. And let's do our... Actually, wait, we'll do our before landing checklist as we start to turn downwind. But there's Rothera base below us. So we're going to land... Actually, you know what? The winds are calm. What do you guys prefer? Should we land to the north, which is in the direction we're going more or less, or should we land to the south? I think south would be more interesting because we've got terrain to the south. So tell you what, let's land from the let's land to the south, which is the opposite direction. So we'll overfly the field. Just make sure to check the windsock, make sure it's not doing anything it's not supposed to be doing, or that we don't expect it to be doing. Yeah, the windsock is showing calm there. And you can actually see a couple of twin otters down there. Yeah, we'll land to the south. I think that's a lot more interesting. So we're going to circle back. We're going to make a downwind. And we'll land to the south. Let's do our before landing flows here.
Flaps 20. Setting flaps 20.
South, says Matthew. Yeah, I agree. I'm glad we have so many great minds that think alike on stream today.
Mixtures rich, please. Filter rich.
Boy, I gotta kick in a lot of, or I gotta get in a lot of trim here to keep the airplane level. This, you know, this airplane, it's your classic, old school, American, you know, radial piston engine airplane from way back in the day, right? It takes a lot of muscle to operate. It takes a lot of muscle.
2500 RPM set. Cal flaps. Plus 3 degrees. Cal flaps set.
Okay, there's the station down there.
ADI off.
What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna fly a sort of a figure 8 pattern here. That's what I'm, or you know, half a figure 8. I'm just making a big loop back to downwind.
Before landing checks complete.
And I'm still trying to make sure I get a good long look at the lay of the land there. Yeah, that's looking good to me. So I'm going to circle back for downwind on 1.8 here. Let's see, what did I miss? Dreamland says, yep, Michigan-based. It hasn't been too bad. Not a whole lot of snow, but a lot of wintry mix with ice and cold kind of kept you on the ground. You about to run back to Singapore. Is that where you're from there, Dreamland? That's a fantastic place to have ties to. I've got family ties to Singapore myself, actually. So that's an awesome place to have family ties to. And Dreamland says you do have it, just not installed at the moment. Kind of on the full Dash 8 line. Yeah, it'd be cool to do some hops around Greenland for sure. Yeah, there's a lot of places that you could have some fun, you know, with that airplane in. Dreamland says it's a Dash 8, 100, 200, 300, and then the, oh, gotcha. Okay, so see, that makes a lot more sense to me because I was for some reason mistakenly insisting on using the Q designation for the earlier, you know, shorter capacity versions, but it makes sense. It's just the 300, 200, and 100 without that Q on there. So that makes a lot more sense, yeah. Okay, let's see how we're doing in terms of getting on downwind here. Okay, good. We're going to be on downwind here in just a hot second. Trying to work my views. Trying to work my views. Here we go. Getting on downwind for 1.8. And I'll descend down at 1,000 feet here. All right. Oh, Dreamland, I'm not from there. I just have family who have connections to Singapore. You know, so I'm not from there, and not Chinese. And you know, no Chinese Singaporean connections actually. I'm a little bit reluctant to you know, I'm a little bit trying to figure out exactly how to answer that, but yeah, but no, not that though. Yeah, let's see, what else did I miss here? Oh, you just had the opportunity to vacation there, says Dreamland. Gotcha, okay. Awesome. Okay, so we're on downwind here. I probably should have been out a ways, or out a bit more. I probably should have been out a bit more, because I'm going to be cutting in my, my base is going to be a bit too short, unfortunately. Let's go flaps 30 here. Slow down a bit more. And let's start descending once we're abeam the threshold. We were abeam the threshold earlier. So we'll start descending a little bit here. Let's go flaps 40. Wow, look at this. There you go, Dreamland. So that works. Wow, look at that little cove down there. You look at that little sheltered cove slash bay there. That's pretty cool. That looks like the Hanauma Bay of Antarctica. It looks almost exactly like Hanauma Bay in Hawaii on the island of Oahu, except it's covered in ice. Okay, returning base here. And let's keep our turn going to final, actually. Let's go flaps full as we roll out on final here. Yeah, this runway is looking kind of short. The closer you get to it, the more you're like, oh boy, oh boy. Okay, we'll maintain about 105 knots on final here. And the runway itself is on a bit of a plateau there. I want to make sure, I don't come up short, right, and take my my gear off. Okay. Let's start slowing down here. Whoa. Going around. You know what happened? That was... We're going to check out the replay later, but I think I know what happened there. That was probably either me not judging my head correctly, or what I suspect is... what I suspect happened there is... let's get the flaps up. What I suspect happened there is there was a terrain issue. There was some kind of terrain artifact there. So we'll try this again. That was probably a bug. Yeah, that's my guess too there, Matthew. In fact, tell you what, let's check out a quick replay right now, because I want to see what happened. Might as well see what happened right now before we try this again. So let's do a quick replay right before we touch down. Oh boy, what happened with the ChasePlane? ChasePlane's gonna quit on me, isn't it? Yep. Well, we can't see a replay. That sucks. Let me see if the default replay is available. It is actually. Okay, so we're gonna check out the default replay here. Gear was down already. Disregard. ChasePlane crashed on me, which is why we couldn't do a ChasePlane replay there. But let's see what happened. Yeah, it was definitely a bug. Do you see what happened there? I was still up in the air, and that happened. Let's watch that again here, real quick. Yeah, see? That was a bug. Now I'm kind of concerned that's probably going to happen again. That is definitely going to happen again. Maybe I should try from the other side, yeah. I probably will try from the other side. That is probably going to happen again there. Yeah, we'll circle around to the other side and try from that direction, for sure. Okay, gear coming down again. we'll just do a loop here and try the other angle. See, this is why you never want to try landing at an airport for the first time in a stream, right? Because you never know if there are bugs. But you know, it really sucks because you probably saw that was setting up to be an almost perfect approach and landing, right? And and sure enough, whenever things are looking that good, something has to go wrong. All right. All right, we'll try it from the other side. But man, that really sucks, because that was really setting up to be a really nice approach and landing. And I was getting ready to make it buttery smooth too, and then things went haywire. Okay, we'll try this again. Let's go flaps 40. We're a bit low, but that's fine. Flaps full. Okay, getting back on glide path here. You know I can go around if I need to, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to land slightly longer than I normally would on a short runway, because I know I've got reversers available, and I know I've got super powerful brakes too. So I'm going to bring it in just slightly high here, so hopefully we avoid that terrain elevation artifact here. And I can't wait to see what the maintenance system is showing in terms of the engine, the maintenance situation with the engine. I probably overstressed the engines during the go-around there because I put in way too much power during the go-around. Anyway, let's see how this goes. Okay, touchdown. Reversers. That was a bit of a firm landing, but I'm okay with it. And there we go, we're stopped. Let's taxi off here. Look at those twin otters lined up there. Whoops. Reversers were still engaged. The joystick button that I thought I had set for the reversers was not working, so I had to use the old Control W water rudder technique. Okay, so we made it on the ground safely. You know, there's a part of me that wants to try that again, but let's check out a replay. So, by the way, you notice there's those two airplane types that I mentioned, right? Those two aircraft types that fly in here. There's a Dash 7 4-engine turboprop, and over here on the right, you got the Twin Otters. So that's super cool. All right, folks, let's check out some replays. Hopefully, ChasePlane works now, because I restarted ChasePlane, and we'll check out some replays. All right. There's the actual research station itself over there, by the way. Yeah, a little firm, but I'm okay with it. I'm totally cool with that. And look at that. The airplane knows it's on a gravel runway because it started, you know, the landing gear, the suspension was really working overtime there. And I actually put the airplane into reverse there. and started moving backwards because I didn't get the reversers disengaged. Don't you love, by the way, how the nose gear ends up at an angle when you turn hard over? That's super cool. Okay. It was a firm landing, but you know what? I'm okay with it. I'm almost tempted to give it another spin, but you know what? It's getting a bit late. I wanted to keep the stream below 3.5 hours, so I think this is good enough. Let's check out a tower view of that. Okay. And look at the smoke coming off the chimneys here. Yeah, that works for me. I'm cool with that one. Is that a control tower? Yeah, that's actually a control tower there. That's actually a control tower. You see the little yellow building back there behind that one green building in the foreground? That's a control tower. How about that? Okay. I'm kind of disappointed though, because man, if it hadn't been for that one weird terrain artifact, that first one might have been a greaser, but hey, it worked out. Yeah, it worked out. It wasn't the best, but it worked out. Alright, we'll do one engine view, and then I just love how I ended up backing up by mistake there. Because I thought I'd unclicked or disengaged the reverser there. I didn't realize that it was still doing its thing. Yep, firm, but a good kind of firm, you know? The kind of firm that gets you safely on the ground. It's a bit of a carrier landing, but I'm okay with it. I'm okay with it. We had one nice soft smooth touchdown at Terra Nova earlier, and I can take the firmer landing on this one. You can see the shadow of the airplane there off on the right. Yeah, it wasn't that bad, actually. You can see we're kind of starting to, you know, when you look at the shadow, you realize that I did arrest that descent a bit. One thing I wanted to do here real quick was just take a look around the scenery before we went to our final replay. I did want to take a quick look around the scenery here. Here we go. It says British Antarctic Survey. That's pretty cool. You got a little logo with the Antarctica, you know, the continent of Antarctica on it there in the back. That's pretty cool. That's an interesting registration though. VPFBQ. What nation has the VP registration? I'm not sure. Got a bunch of snowmobiles here. Got a bunch of either oil drums or fuel drums back there. And I'm guessing those are fuel tanks back there, right? Might be water tanks, though, I'm not sure. Snowmobiles. Got a tractor there. A couple of twin otters here. You know, and I think what I could do with the the DC-6, I can probably just drive it right into, or taxi it right into the hangar here, right? You can probably just taxi right into the hangar. Trady, how's it going? Trady says you have your first solo flight planned for late January. That is fantastic, Trady. Well, that is awesome. You know, you're never gonna forget your first solo. You're certainly gonna remember that for the rest of your life. So make sure to have fun. That's the most important thing. You know, your instructor, by the way, would never sign you off for solo, right? Obviously, unless you were absolutely ready. So so you're gonna have a good time. That's fantastic. Enjoy it, and if we stream later on in the year, or in the new year sometime, make sure to come back in and report back on how that first solo went. It's been super cool. We've had about, you know, I'm thinking about 3 viewers this year that have reported their first solos. So that is fantastic. Wow, look at the level of detail in the scenery. You got a little deck here with stairs and a railing. Got a little radio antenna thing there. There's your control tower. And wow, look at all the details here. What does that say? It says... Actually, it's really hard to read. You can't read it at all. It's super blurry. I think it says Rothera Research Station. Yeah, that's what it says. It's super blurry, but it says Rothera Research Station. You know, it's amazing they actually modeled that, considering how many people are actually gonna, you know, go into drone camera and roam around the scenery looking at all this stuff. Trady says, yep, planned for your 17th birthday. Well, that is fantastic, Trady. That sounds like an awesome birthday present to yourself for sure. Enjoy it, my friend. It's gonna be great. Matthew 4 says the aircraft is registered in the Falklands, the Dash 7. Oh boy. Well, I guess it kind of makes sense, right? When they reposition some of these airplanes from the United Kingdom, I guess it kind of makes sense that they would take advantage of their position in the Falklands to do that. Yeah, so that kind of makes sense. All right. Okay, folks. 1 second. Let's go check this out. We got a lone dude or dudette hanging out in this little ATV type thing here. And he's rocking the shades too. Look at this dude. He's rocking the Men in Black shades. He's got a John Deere tractor, or whatever it is. He's got a John Deere there. That's super cool. All right, awesome, folks. You know, tell you what, I'm gonna do a replay where I'm like literally sitting at the end of the runway here. I want to see what that looked like from the end of the runway. So I'm gonna put myself right about here, and let's do a replay real quick, and then we'll call it a day. One second. Okay, let's pull it back. Okay, there we go. Let's play. That actually looked relatively soft, didn't it? I mean, it wasn't, you know, it wasn't like buttery smooth, but from that angle, it didn't look half bad. Hold on, let me bring it back just a little bit here. I'm just gonna lower my, yeah, there you go. Whoop. Let's do that again. 1 second, just bring it back a little bit more. And this time, I'm just gonna keep my view still right there. You know what? I think... Hold on. I lied. One final replay here from this angle. I just want to see the touchdown. There we go. There we go. Okay, let's try this. Yeah, that wasn't too bad, actually. I mean, it was firm, but that wasn't too bad at all. I liked it. Alright, folks. We'll switch into some cinematic shots here, and we'll pull up some outro music, and we'll call it a day. Alright, I want to thank you all so much for hanging out. This was super fun. I know I enjoyed it. I hope you did too. Obviously, this is going to be my last stream for the year. What a year this has been, seriously. It's just been an absolutely nutty year, I think, for so many of us. But the one saving grace of this year, with all the misery and craziness that it has wrought, the one saving grace of this year is that it's almost over, right? It's almost over. So can't wait for it to be done. Just gonna pull up some outro music here. You know, the pandemic is still raging, at least in this part of the world. I hope that all of you that are in chat stay safe, stay healthy. I hope you all have some great plans for the new year, despite everything that's going on with lockdowns and social distancing, etc. I do hope that you all stay safe and healthy, have a fantastic new year, and have a fantastic start of the new year. And I'm not sure when I'm going to be streaming again, but hopefully sometime in the next month. We'll look forward to catching you in the new year and seeing how all of you are doing. But in the meantime, stay safe, stay healthy, enjoy the new year, have a fantastic start, and we'll look forward to catching you next time. Blue skies and tailwinds, y'all. Y'all take care. Bye.